Good evening, everybody. I will call to order our regular public council meeting Monday, January 24th, 2022 for the town of Torbay. I'll give this public service announcement. So residents, the public are advised that due to COVID-19, council meetings held at the town hall will be closed to the public until further notice. Public meetings are live streamed, video recorded for your information, and you can view the council meeting through the civic web portal. Residents of the public have the option to ask questions or make comments before or during council meeting by emailing dchaplin@torbay.ca. Council will do its best to answer questions live during the meeting. As always, council staff are available to residents and the public. Please feel free to call the town office or email your questions and concerns. Refer to the town of Torbay, torbay.ca for contact information. And all of our agenda information is published for the public information as viewing as per usual. First thing on our list is new business. Councillor Tepper. Okay. Councillor Manning?
Nothing for me.
Councillor Pollard?
Just thanks.
Councillor Appleby?
It's not working.
Just turn it on.
Thank you, please.
Councillor Goss?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you.
And I got a thanks. Okay, could I get a motion? We don't have no questions came in prior, did we? No, okay. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, the first item on our agenda is public council meeting minutes from January 10th and January 17th. There are items in here related to conflict of interest votes for myself and Councillor Appleby. So we are going to ask, or I'm going to ask that council excuse us from adopting these for potential, because there's a potential conflict there. So, is council in agreement?
Can I
What?
ask for a motion?
Can you get a motion for that?
So moved.
Moved, seconder?
And I'll second.
Okay. Yeah, well, you have, take over, Mayor.
Okay.
You take the vote.
All right, all in, no,
Yep.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, just let us know when you're done with those two.
But we'll actually move into, we'll do 2 sets of minutes plus the memo.
Okay.
When we're ready for the memo, we'll call, I'll call it.
You do everything now.
We'll move and come back for the memo.
Okay, all right. Okay, can I have a motion for the, well, we've already, for any new business in the minutes of, January 17th, or January 10th, sorry. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that's when I ask if there's any new business, or is that fine to
Any
go on?
additions
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
corrections?
additions or errors in those minutes, I don't think so, No? Okay, for the adoption of the public council meeting minutes of January 17th, can I have a motion for, adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any errors or omissions? So now, when you want to, do we go right into,
So we should have, yes, so we should ask the mayor and Councilor Appleby to, otherwise we could rescind these motions first, then have them come back and speak to potential conflict. That might be the easier piece to do.
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
So with regards to, and I just want to let, I guess, any of the residents know, what's happening here. I guess we had, a motion for the conflict of interest for Council Appleby and, Mayor, and we've been advised, so I'm going to read this, memo that I have here, so that everybody is aware of what's happening. I know that we had a lot of comments and what have you about having two separate votes, but I will say right up front that it was, next to impossible to get everybody together for a meeting, and we had to make them, at two separate meetings. So the memo that I have here is, dated January 20th, to Mayor Scott, myself, councillors, and from CAO, and it's regarding the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board. And further to my memo dated January 7, 2022, which was tabled. Okay, which was tabled at the January 10, 2022 Public Council meeting, and further to the conflict of interest vote as per Section 209 of the Municipalities Act regarding Mayor Scott and Councillor Appleby as required by the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board decision regarding the query application. The conflict of interest votes took place on January 10, 2022, Mayor Scott, and January 17, 2022, Councillor Appleby. Further to the Committee of the Whole request on January 18, 2022, and a discussion with the Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs and the town solicitor, both motions must be rescinded. The issue of conflict of interest must be addressed in one motion of council. This must happen and conflict be determined before council can vote on the query application. It is recommended and requested that the motions of council be rescinded and a new vote regarding the conflict take place at the January 24, 2022 Public Council meeting. Please find attached the motion. So what we have here then is the two motions. And I'd like to ask somebody to make a motion, reference the number one.
I'll do it, that's fine.
Okay, thank
Motion
you.
one, the Town of Torbay rescind motion RES 4, 2022. This motion pertains to the conflict of interest vote taken for Mayor Scott at the January 10th, 2022 Public Council meeting as it pertains to the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board decision regarding the quarry application on Balleen Line. So moved.
Second?
Okay. Discussion? So everybody understands, I'm just making sure that everybody understands what's happening here, this motions, okay? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and then we have the second motion here for Councillor Appleby. Somebody like to make that motion, please?
I'll do that again. So, the Town of Torbay rescind motion RES 20, 2022. This motion pertains to the conflict of interest vote taken for Councillor Appleby at the January 17th, 2022 Special Public Council meeting as it pertains to the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board decision regarding the quarry application on Balleen Line. So moved.
Seconder?
Second?
Okay, discussion? Okay. And could I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? All good. So now we can get the mayor and Council Appleby back.
All right.
Okay, now I'm going to ask Councillor Appleby, I guess, under Section 209, why she feels that she's in conflict from a monetary reason. And you want to read out section 209 CAO, just to make sure we're all on the same page here, please?
So decision of council, section 209, where a councillor is in doubt as to whether or not he or she has a monetary interest that is a conflict of interest under section 207, he or she shall make a disclosure, and the council may decide the question by majority vote, and its decision on the matter is final. A councillor whose possible conflict of interest is being voted on is not entitled to vote.
Okay. So over to you, Councillor Appleby.
Can we take a look at our microphone and see if we can, no, Councillor Appleby's microphone. See, if- is it turned on?
Thank you. Can you hear me on that? Yeah, perfect. Okay. What am I doing here? I am trying to set a timer for 3 minutes.
I think that to talk about your conflict, I don't think we're worried about time. I'm gonna make sure we get this thing right?
Okay, thank you.
It's not a motion.
Okay. So I just want to clarify some things around this discussion. And Councillor Thorngoss, Deputy Mayor Thorngoss, has asked me why I feel I'm in a conflict. She also said in the meeting on June 17th in the chamber that I said that I was in a conflict. I have in front of me the information about what I said in that meeting, and I asked council in June of 2020 if I was in a conflict, because I had learned on June the 15th, the day of the first vote, that there was a development that we were going to be voting on that was 600 meters from Mayor and my home. My understanding is that Mayor had said in the June 10th meeting that he's been working on this file for at least 8 years and did not feel that he's in a conflict. I don't know if or when I might sell my home. It could be 20 years. It could be, I could be there for 30 years. I have no idea. So I have no knowledge of if there would be a financial impact for me. I asked the question simply because it's across the street. And when I saw that and looked at it, and the picture was sent to us with the information of, here are both of our homes, this is the line, here's where it is, and I went, okay, that gives me enough reason to ask council to decide if there's a conflict. So I want to clarify that in the last meeting of the 17th, I asked the question, and I asked it specifically. I said, I don't know if I'm in a conflict. I'm asking council. And then there were several attempts to get me to say that I was in a conflict, but I said, I don't know that I am. I don't know enough to know if I am in a conflict. That's why I asked the question. And it was said at that meeting, because I did go home and watch it after, that it's very precarious to have one member of council saying, yes, I feel I'm in a conflict, and second, I feel I'm not. But it's not about if we feel we're in a conflict. And I would caution council on the comment that if I think I'm in a conflict, I must be in a conflict. Because I have spoken to municipal affairs. I have gone back to Sandy Hounsell, who has been quoted in saying, no, you can just get up and walk out of 207 and 208 in the Act. You don't have to declare conflict. But you know what? Under 209, if I ask the question of council, then it's not me deciding that I'm in a conflict. It's council's decision. And I was advised by municipal affairs that the best thing for me to do, if I'm not sure, is to ask the question. It wasn't my brother's investment. It's not something that's clearly defined in the Act as per if there was a conflict. And back in 2000, I asked the question, can council provide a decision, because I think there may potentially be one. I didn't know for sure. That's the question that I asked then. That's the question I asked on the 17th. But it seemed that some other people had said, said that I was in a conflict, and I want to be clear. I asked the question, am I in a conflict? I said there could be a potential. I did not say I am sure and certain I'm in a conflict and walk out. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is my understanding, again in the June 17th meeting, there was a comment made that we have no choice but to follow this order. In fact, council did have a choice, and it says right here in the board's order, according to Section 46 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000, the decision of the Regional Poor Bill may be appealed to the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador on a question of law or jurisdiction. If this action is contemplated, the appeal must be filed no later than 10 days after the appellant has received the board's decision. So I asked the question, because I didn't ask the question at the time because I didn't know if I was in a conflict or not, and I spent a whole day in an appeal hearing with the appellant's lawyer accusing me of bias and saying that I was in a conflict. And because there could be any question of conflict, I didn't ask the question, but I'm going to ask it now before council takes another vote. And I'm going to ask, why did not council look at this situation? Because I'm confused as to how a vote whereby the question was asked if there's a conflict and it was a failed vote, how is that vote flawed? I'm not sure that it is. And it doesn't say here in the board's decision or order that it was a flawed vote. The other thing that I want to address and touch on while we're here is that Deputy Mayor Thorngoss said in the June 17th meeting that she asked the question, has everybody read what's in this package? And then she referred the council to page 13 of the board's decision. And for record, I just want to make sure that it's noted that everything on here is what the appellant stated, not what council stated, not council's position. This was exactly on page 13 of the appeal board decision, everything there that she's asking council to reference that talks about anything to do with me and my conflict is what the appellant had stated. Further to, I asked the question when we were there on December 7th if I could get a copy of the public transcript at the time.
Excuse me, Council.
And I was,
Excuse me
at
now.
the floor. I have the floor,
Excuse me.
Mayor.
Excuse me. I'm chairing the meeting right now.
Okay, you can chair.
So what you're asked to do, and what I have asked you to do, is to demonstrate to us if you are in conflict in a monetary way. Not all of this rehashing about what's gone on over the last several months at the actual appeal. I'm just asking a question as pertaining to the conflict of interest. Why do you see yourself, and you're putting it forward for a monetary value?
I never did. You said that, not me.
Excuse me.
You're putting words in my mouth.
You had said that you were in conflict, or you wanted
council. No, I did not.
You wanted council to determine if you were in conflict.
I asked if I said there's potential for conflict, and I asked council if
what is the potential?
There could be a potential.
What's the monetary value to you?
I don't know that there is a monetary value, and it's clear that council's not sure about it because there was a vote saying that mayor's not in conflict and I am. And I will note that mayor voted for this development and I voted against it. No, I think it does because in the documentation that we had a discussion before council and I was told that I was able to bring these issues up now. You don't want me to bring them up because you don't want me to talk about what you've done.
Are you going to continue doing this? Okay.
In the public chamber, we should have a conversation about what's happened here.
No, recess.
live? No, we wait for the hand up.
Okay, so, I guess as the chair, and in light of the previous discussions and the way that things have gone off, I'm going to, pass the chair over to Councillor Pollard for the remainder of this discussion on conflict.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Hopefully things go nice and smooth now. We're going to provide Councillor Appleby with 3 minutes to address some information that she wanted to speak about as in not correct or misinterpret or something from previous meetings. So we're going to allow her that time right now, and then we will move into the votes on the conflict of interest. So, Councillor Appleby, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. I just want to clarify that I did ask before the meeting how to address this, and there was an agreement, and then that's changed. But I do appreciate the opportunity of council to speak to clarify the record. And like I had mentioned before, the first piece was that the conversation was mentioned that we had to follow this when we had the opportunity to appeal. There wasn't a discussion that I'm aware of with council or a decision even held by, or discussion around council about if we would appeal. I'm curious to know why that didn't happen. I also want to make it clear that the questions that I asked in the last meeting were if I was in a conflict, that I did not have enough information to know that if this development that is 600 meters across from the mayor and my home would have a financial impact. I don't know if I'm going to sell my house. I don't know when or if I would do that. I mean, the only monetary impact for me personally would be if I sold it and the value is impacted after, or, you know, what monetary value I had before if it was changed after this went in. I have no idea. That's a possibly could be. The reason I asked the question of a conflict was that I was aware that there was a development, and this development was before council, and that when the day of the vote came, I had a picture showing me exactly where it was, and I went, oh, I should be asking a question here if there is a conflict. And I have every bit of respect in the world for the Municipal Act to make sure that if I should be following the rules, that I'm going to do that. So when I saw that this was across the street from my house, I looked out, is it going to impact the value of my home? I honestly don't know. That's why I went under Section 209 and I asked council to take the decision about any potential monetary impact that that could have. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm asking the question. Mayor thinks that it's not going to impact. I think that it could possibly impact. I don't know. And I'm asking the question of, is that the case? But in the meeting on the 17th, the comments were made that I said I was in a conflict. And they kept being said I was in a conflict, forcing the discussion in a way that it looked like I said that I was in a conflict. When what I did was I asked the question, am I in a conflict? The same way that I'm asking now. So I don't need 6 minutes. I still have 40 seconds left. And in the 3 minutes I have, I'm happy to ask council to please look at what's available for you, decide if there is a potential for conflict, and if there is, that's great. But if there's not, that's great too. I just want to make sure that I'm following the act, disclosing if there's any potential for conflict, and asking the question so that we're doing things properly. Thank you. And there is 13 seconds to go. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Now we'll go to the vote section on the, sorry?
I think we're already moved on from you, right? Or are we? I don't know.
I think it's the mayor's turn to speak
Yeah.
and explain what his,
Or,
that's my understanding where we are.
Okay, so I just thought you were going to do the whole 3 minutes at one time. That's fine. So, okay, so you asked council what was specific? You asked council to vote on?
If there's a conflict for me when it comes to a development that could be 600 meters across from the house, mine and the mayor's house.
For a particular purpose?
I don't know if there's a monetary impact or not, Councillor Pollard. I'm asking the question. Like I said, I don't know if I have no idea. I'm planning to live in my house for a long time. I have no idea of what could happen tomorrow. So I have no idea, this is not a situation where I can say, oh, it's under the act and that's my brother's infrastructure, so I know I'm walking away. I don't know what monetary impact, if any, is there, but if I think that there's any potential for a monetary impact in any situation, I have to self-declare as a councillor and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. Can you please help me. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm asking the question. I'm stating the fact that there's a development before council that's 600 meters across from my house that I found out June 15 that was there. And I'm asking, I don't know if there's a monetary interest or not, but can council please help me understand if I have a potential conflict? Because I don't know if I do. And that's the question I asked on the 17th.
Okay, thank you.
To me?
Your worship?
Okay, I mean, I've been pretty clear on this since the beginning, that I've never felt that I've been in a conflict. The additional quarry that's going in there, I always knew where it was. We had a survey from day one that never changed from day one to day, whenever we voted on it. I was, participated in committee meetings, council votes on, in April or May of 2018, when we reapproved the approval in principle letter. I mean, if I felt I was in a conflict, I would have declared it at that time. I would have declared it before. Since 2015, when this originally passed council, nobody ever raised any issue of conflict to me. So, in my mind, if I'm looking at this now in a completely rational way, if I'm in a conflict now, then I would have always been in a conflict. Knowing that my house didn't move and the location of the quarry didn't move from the time that it was passed in 2015, because we still only issued a new approval in principle, and the application was existing from then. So no conditions changed. The location didn't change, my house didn't change, everything is exactly being the same. So I mean, if I'm in a conflict now, I was in a conflict then. And if council finds that we're in a conflict, then you're gonna have another question, I think, to have to deal with, and that would be the potential if now I'm in a conflict, I was in a conflict before, I knowingly participated in committee meetings, I would have been in a conflict then. And then council's gonna have a decision to make whether my seat is gonna have to be vacated. So, I mean, it's the same for both of us, I believe. It can only be one decision. Either we're both in a conflict or we're both not in a conflict. And I went back and looked at my assessments. I've been there 14 years. There's already 3 quarries operating in there, and now there's another one. And my assessment, which is the only thing I can praise the value of my house, hasn't gone out of whack compared to the rest of the town. You know, so that's the only way I can look at it there. So that's all I got to say. Oh, the one other thing I would say is that I have never ever even asked council to determine whether I was in a conflict or not. When Councillor Appleby, Deputy Mayor at the time, asked the question at that meeting when we were getting ready to vote on the quarry, council at that time had no choice but to consider me too because of my close proximity to her house. But if for instance, if she hadn't been there, I would never have asked. So I never ever felt that I was. So.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay.
Okay, I'll ask Councillor Appleby and Mayor Scott to step out and we'll conduct the vote. I'm gonna pass the chair over to the Deputy Mayor again to conduct the vote.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Pollard for jumping in there and getting that much information from the Mayor and Councillor Appleby. So now I would like to call for a motion to deal with the conflict of interest for the Mayor and Councillor Appleby.
I was writing that while they were speaking, so I'll save us some time. Hopefully, in no mind, I'll read it out.
Okay,
I move that Councillor Appleby and Mayor Scott are not in conflict with respect to decisions related to the quarry application on Balling Line. So moved.
have a seconder?
Second?
I will second.
Okay.
Discussion, folks?
Discussion, yeah. And I would like to go around and have everybody to give their views on this, if you don't mind. So let's start with Councillor Pollard.
Gee, thank you. Yeah, I think I've voted consistently every time. I know there's potential conflicting information to my previous stand on it. It's a difficult process, and in that process, I guess it's difficult to determine whether or not. But for consistency purposes, I'm going to have to say that, I'm going to vote that they would be in conflict. I don't think there's any repercussions of going backwards in terms of, what happened previous to this point in time, because it's just a bunch of muddy trails, shall we say, from this point backwards. So we can only take what it is and move forward and go on from there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Manning?
Okay, so I voted two different ways on each time, but I'm at a point now where the act specifies monetary interest. And from that perspective, I can see no concrete evidence that there is monetary interest that will affect either Councillor Appleby or Mayor Scott. I don't think I'm qualified to see in the future whether it's gonna bring the property value down. Mayor Scott has gone over his assessments, as he said, and has reviewed and does not see anything that relates to the quarries that are already built. And from that perspective, that's where I'm gonna be making my vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Manning. Councillor Tapper?
I guess now that we're back in business and online with the residents, I just want to make a statement. It is pertaining to this because I made a statement a few minutes ago that around this chamber, the way it's evolving, you need a law degree to sit in this place. So I'm just going to go to the motion and say I've been consistent in my voting on this issue, and we have a legal opinion stating neither is in conflict. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Okay, Councillor.
Sorry, just for, anyway.
Yeah.
Before we vote, I'll repeat that so everyone understands exactly what
Yeah.
they're voting on. Good.
Again, I have voted pretty consistently on the two votes of how I felt about this conflict of interest. And if it comes down to we as a council voting, then I'll be holding what I have held before, that I do feel there is a conflict and there's a monetary either gain or loss in this perspective, and with my perspective on this issue.
CAO, do I have the turn, because I want to speak to this motion as well, and I guess following the rules of procedure.
I would
I'm gonna have
recommend turning it over to
turn it over.
Councillor Pollard.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to, I guess this has been something that's been back, and it's unfortunate that we ended up, like I said earlier, voting both ways on this because we couldn't get everybody together to have a discussion and make a decision. But knowing, and I'm one of the ones that's been split on this, just because of the way that the interpretation has gone, and rightly or wrongly, I guess it was a tie before, and I'm just looking at it from, based on the information that we have. And as Councillor Tapper had said, this was something, a decision that could go either way, and up until 3 o'clock this evening, I still did not know which way I was going to vote. And even by the way, I guess, that Councillor Appleby responded to the question tonight, she don't know if she is or not. And it was always evident right from day one with regards to the mayor had said way back when he first got on council and had a vote of council that he wasn't. So as a result of the information we now have, I'll be based on that neither one of them are in conflict. Thank you.
Okay, you're gonna take chair back now for the vote?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's back to.
Okay,
Deputy
so-
Mayor. Can I read
Yeah,
out
right,
that again?
yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so, just so everybody's clear, the motion is, I move that Councillor Appleby and Mayor Scott are not in conflict with respect to decisions related to the quarry application on Balleen Line. So if you think they're not in conflict, you're voting yes, and if you think they are in conflict, you're voting against it, just so you know.
Okay. All right, everybody okay with that? So, okay to call the question? All in favor of the motion?
All right.
That they, and this is what, they're not in conflict.
They're not in conflict.
They're not in conflict?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Motion carries.
motion carries.
Yep.
That they are
Not in conflict.
not in conflict.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, everyone. And, okay, you'll get them, or I can? Yep, I'll get. Okay.
Thank goodness.
That killed an hour.
Hmm?
That killed an hour.
Yeah.
Did you want to advise them of the vote and then hand it back over to the mayor?
Yeah.
All right.
Mayor, I just want to advise, I guess, yourself and Councillor Appleby that the decision is that both of you are not in conflict. And pass the chair back to you. Thank you.
All right, okay, thank you. I guess I would apologize to those people that are watching from home, as things seem to get off the rails a little bit there, but, you know, sometimes you take a little break and get things back, take a little deep breath and get things back on track, and hopefully that's where we're to now. So, proclamations.
Before you start, I just had X saying my mic is not working. Did anybody else get?
Did you want
Is
to
that
take
now?
mine?
Yeah,
Oh, it's
no,
working.
sounds working.
Maybe
now.
you're not-
It was earlier.
Maybe you're
Yeah.
not close enough to it.
It was,
Might
it
be.
might have been earlier.
Okay, fine, thanks.
All right, so there's a couple of proclamations here. This first one to deal with mental health awareness. I'm going to get the deputy mayor to read that one. Do you have a copy, Mary?
Now I'll get this in here.
It's for Bell Let's Talk Day.
I just gotta find it in here. Okay, Bell Let's Talk Day, January 26th, 2022. Bell Let's Talk Day, raising, or flag raising. Whereas January 26, 2022 marks the 12th annual Bell Let's Talk Day, a day of conversation, support, and positive change for mental health. And whereas the town of Torbay supports positive mental health for all citizens and members of our community and seeks to improve the lives of all citizens who will experience a mental illness or mental health issue in their lifetime, and those who are struggling with their mental health amid the COVID-19 situation. The town of Torbay recognizes that due to COVID-19, people are experiencing challenges that may affect their mental health. Now more than ever, the need for conversation, awareness, and action around mental health matters, and every action counts. The town of Torbay raises a flag to celebrate Bell Let's Talk Day and encourage all citizens of Torbay to join the conversation and help create positive change.
Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Craig Scott, do hereby proclaim Thursday, January 26, 2022, as Bell Let's Talk Day in the town of Torbay and encourage support of this campaign. So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I'm really glad to see us approving this proclamation. I think it's so important to have a conversation about mental health, especially with COVID and the times that we're in. You know, we've been especially impacted with the recession, with the oil and gas, slump, with people losing their jobs, with all the things that have gone on, and then you tack COVID on top of it, and years of being barred in your home. And I know for me, in this fall, I was impacted by, COVID outbreaks and Omicron, and then, over Christmas, all that. I think it's been really hard. And I think for me personally, this last lockdown has been harder. I think the first one, people rallied together more. The second one was a little more, yeah, okay, this is part of what we get. But for me, the third one, it's almost like it feels like it's back to, oh my God, we're starting all over again. And I think that Omicron is different because there's fear for us. So mentally, it's draining. When you add work, children, life, counsel, everything else that we do on top of it, I think that we just need to make sure that as we're being around people, spending time with them, that we take the time to be kind, try to reach out, look after our neighbors, and make sure that people who are isolated, like seniors, especially in our community, know that there are other people who are here who care and that we're trying to be safe. So I think just from that mental health perspective, it's so important for people in the community to see that we are supporting that and that this is a safe space to talk about mental health and how things are impacting you. And then that helps make people more comfortable and feel more shored up, even though we haven't got our normal infrastructure around us to provide those supports. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd just like to say
Mayor?
that this is something that's really important, and that you'll never know, again, who's going through mental health issues. And for everybody who can to support, I guess, Bell Let's Talk. And if nothing else, I guess we all could probably be a little bit more kinder to one another. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I'll just say that I'm glad we're doing this. I know that for me personally, over the last number of years, it's been really difficult. That, and anybody that's watches these meetings regularly will understand why. This place can take a toll on you, physically, mentally. And what I've learned is that if you're having issues and you're feeling that you need help, go do it, go get it. Because if your chest was paining or your leg was sore, you'd go to the doctor and get that. And there's people out there that can help you with mental health issues. Mental health issues now are at the forefront. And I think it's because more and more people are willing to speak out and talk about it and not keep it bottled up inside. And it has a terrible effect on people's families, their physical health, and their mental health. So I'm really glad that we're doing this again. It's a great initiative, and I'll pop over Wednesday and we'll put the flag up. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Did you want a picture of all council? Did all council want to do a picture with the flag?
That'd probably be
Let's
nice
do
for
one
Wednesday.
after the meeting is over.
Okay.
All right, so we have another proclamation here for Eating Disorder Awareness Week. Yes, I did.
Oh.
Yeah. Who would like to take this one?
I can take it, sure.
Go ahead, Tony.
Did I say that?
Did you say you would take it?
I did, yes.
Okay, very good.
I certainly did. Yeah, I miscounted people around the table, sorry. Eating Disorder Awareness Week, February 1st to the 7th, 2022. Whereas an eating disorder is a serious mental illness with often devastating physical implications. Whereas eating disorders affect many individuals and families in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Whereas recovery from an eating disorder is a journey that includes support from families and caregivers. Whereas the Eating Disorder Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador is a leadership advocacy group dedicated to promoting support, treatment services, and providing public support services and information about matters related to eating disorders. Whereas February 1st to the 7th, 2022 is dedicated across Newfoundland and Labrador and the entire country as a special time when many educational and awareness activities take place to help raise the level of understanding of eating disorder, prevention, treatment, and recovery. Whereas the theme for Eating Disorder Week for 2022 is Everyone Has a Role to Play.
Therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim February 1st to the 7th, 2022 be observed as Eating Disorder Awareness Week in the Town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Comments? Good.
Again, I think this is a really important thing for us to support. And I think that, You know, I'm raising a daughter who's 14 years old and my son who's 10, and they at their tender ages are talking about what they're eating, how they're eating, how much of it they're eating, thinking about if they've got weight on or not. That's scary when you've got kids that young thinking about that. And people are taking decisions every day about what they eat. And I know people who've suffered with eating disorders, and it's very hard on your body. So I think it's very important that we're having this conversation, that it's okay for people to say, hey, I have trouble, I'm struggling, and to be able to have provide a safe space to talk about it, about where we go get help. It's important that we have an inclusive community and that everybody knows that it's okay to say, I'm not okay, and I'm struggling with something. And I think most people are struggling with something, and this is one of those somethings. So I'm very proud that we're making this proclamation tonight, and I just want people to know that it's okay, whatever you're struggling with. There are people here, people do care, and we want to make sure that everybody knows, doesn't matter what you look like or what your body type is, what matters is who you are. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I will just say that also, in addition to the proclamation, we will be raising the flag of the Eating Disorder Foundation on, I guess, on February 1st, we'll do that, Don. And they'll be doing a series of social media campaigns. I know that a lot of these groups and charities rely a lot on fundraising, and they do. I know I have attended in the past a walk for the Eating Disorder Foundation around Monday Pond, I believe. And with COVID, I know that a lot of these fundraising efforts for many groups are down. So I would encourage anybody, if you can, and you can afford it, to keep an eye out for those and try and contribute and help our neighbors. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. No presentations. No Q&A. Moving on. We got mayor's report. I'm just going to skip that tonight. We'll figure it out later. Business arising for the minutes. Is there any? No. Thank you. Correspondence. We have a correspondence from Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs. It's an approval for road upgrades. Capital investment plan. There's
Sorry,
another one.
just for clarity on that, I think that's just.
That's stuff we already have done.
Revised figure, yeah.
Yeah, this was it's a thing there called increased funding. So we got a few extra dollars to help cover off the costs of work that we've already got completed. There's a news release here from Municipal Assessment Agency of the people who've been elected. I guess they haven't decided have we found out yet about the
No, it's not
Urban?
till the 20 something,
Okay,
26,
so all the
27.
directors are listed there with the exception of the urban director that we don't have results on yet. I guess we'll get it probably by the next time. There's a letter here from,
Votes, eh?
pardon me?
Must be some slow counting votes. 15 people, day is 22nd, they're supposed to do it on 22nd, day is 24th.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is a letter from the Environment and Climate Change. Has to do with the registration 2174 Portrait Cove St. Philip's Marine Ingredients Plant, the one that we had sent in a letter about, and it's just a letter to inform us that the undertaking has been released from further environmental assessment, and it's subject to other legislative requirements. So I guess I'm sure we'll hear more about that.
Mayor, can I ask one quick question on that?
Yep.
When we had the meeting with the people who are making this happen, I asked a question at the time, would they be interested in a public meeting with residents? And I was informed at that meeting that part of the process would be that there would be a requirement for a public meeting on this. I don't know, I didn't hear anything or see anything about a public meeting. I'm just curious, is there any opportunity for residents to provide feedback? And I did read in here that it says that it is close to the water supply, and there were some pieces around that with conditions to be met. Is this something that you guys are going to speak about the public, at the planning committee to see what response we're going to have or follow up on that? Can I just ask that question?
I would suspect, and Julia can correct me, any public meeting that would be associated with this would be put off by the town of Portugal St. Phillips, right?
Yeah, so we can certainly speak about it at the planning committee meeting, but what I can do is I'll go back to the town of Portugal Cove St. Phillips and see what their next step is in the process, because they are the ultimate decision-making authority. So I'll touch base with them.
Thank you. I just think so many residents had spoken about it, that I think it's important that we make sure our residents have the opportunity to be aware of where this is going, because they were concerned about potential impacts to Torbay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And, I mean, we'll make sure that, I'm sure our planning department will keep an eye on it, what's going on, and give us any updates that we need. There's correspondence here from residents on the Balding line to do with the quarry for demand to planning. There's a bunch of correspondence here from residents with regard to the budget. They've all been forwarded already to council, right, Don?
Correct.
Council's aware of all those, and they've been included in the council package for the public. All right. Committees of council. Committee of the whole minutes, January 13th, 2022. Committee of the whole minutes, January 17th, 2022. And committee of the whole minutes, January 18th, 2022. Is there any motions in any of those, Don?
There is not, no.
There's not. So could I get a motion to adopt those, please? Can we adopt them all in one, or we have to do them separately?
Separately, please.
Okay. Could I get a motion to adopt the committee of the whole minutes from January 13th, please?
So moved.
Moved. Seconder?
Second.
Seconder, questions? Greg?
I have a question. This meeting happened with legal and staff. I did not attend because there wasn't a decision on if I was in conflict or not, and I've not been privy to the information that was discussed or given the opportunity to ask any questions since then, because I was voted in conflict and now I'm not. I understand that there's a special meeting called for Wednesday night for council to take a vote. I'm curious to know when I'm going to get the same opportunity that other members of council had to have a meeting, sit down before council takes that vote, and come up to speed and have the opportunity to ask the lawyer and staff questions that I would have asked in that meeting, because I have no understanding of, other than what I've read here, of what was said, what was discussed, any of it. I don't have any of that information, and I think it's important that all council members, myself and Councillor Pollard, who were unable to participate at that time, have the opportunity to have the same information when a vote comes before council. So I'm just curious to see what council's plan will be to make sure that equal opportunity is appointed. Would we have another meeting where all members of council can sit in and hear if we have questions, or what do we do? Because I was not able to participate in that meeting. Just curious. Thanks.
So we can arrange a meeting for yourself and Councillor Pollard to attend between now and Wednesday, if you choose, or if council would like collectively, all seven, to meet with legal and the director and myself, we can arrange that as well too.
I think it's important that we, as a council, meet with legal to have that discussion, because we've got two brand-new councillors and another councillor who's been away for the past term who has a history with the file. But I think it's important that we all have the same information going in. So if we could do a recap of what happened there, and if there's any questions or debate discussed to happen then. But I think it's only fair that we all sit around the table and have that conversation before we take this vote, because there could be something that we talk about that might just be something that wasn't brought up, or I don't know. But I think it's important that we're all in the same space and have the same discussion, because if Councillor Pollard and I attend a meeting with staff and legal, and then the other councillors have, but we're not all on the same page going into the meeting with the same information, is kind of hard. So I would ask that council have the opportunity to have a meeting, and then all of us have access to the same information, and then we have the special public meeting, if that's what we're going to do, to take a decision on this vote. Thanks.
I guess we can do that and give the option to the members of council who attended last week, if they want to come again or not. Their own choice, if they feel they have the information they need. And
to
basically
be
a
tomorrow.
meeting invite. Can we arrange that, Don?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
I'll
all right.
speak to the director and the lawyer first thing in the morning. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So most likely that'll be tomorrow?
Thank you.
Okay,
So will that happen outside of work hours, Don?
It would be, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. And I just want to make the point, I would encourage, especially newer members of council, to be there. I think it's important we're on the same page. Thanks.
Information from legal was forwarded to everybody relating to this as well, right? So we have it in writing, because I won't be available tomorrow evening. But don't hold it up because of me. If you, Councillor Appleby and whoever else will show up, go ahead. I'll have to rescind again, because I'm in
Yep.
the same seat tomorrow night elsewhere. So, I don't expect I'll be away
Okay.
in time to,
Is there an opportunity then to make it so that Councillor Pollard is able to participate? Because it's not fair if his work conflicts.
I don't think that he has an issue with it if he
I'm
doesn't
fine.
feel able to go.
I've read through all the information and, if I can, depending on what time it is, if I can reach out, I certainly will.
Okay.
Do it.
Okay.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Committee of the whole minutes from January 17th, 2022. Can I get a motion to adopt those, please? Moved.
Second.
Seconder? Seconded. Any questions?
If I could just make a comment. This process of each council member speaking to the draft budget and then coming back around, I know there was a motion of council in the last meeting that council was going to take a decision in a committee of the whole meeting, and then about what they figured that the mill rate should be. And then they were going to have a go-around and then decide where to go from there. And I just want to make a point that I've spoken to municipal affairs a fair bit the last little bit, and I'm informed by municipal affairs that we are not supposed to be taking decisions in the council committee of the whole, that are supposed to be happening in the chamber. So I would suggest maybe we think about around the conflict of interest issue, and maybe how we're doing that. We ask that we get training or someone to come in from municipal affairs to sit with council to have a discussion about some of that stuff, because I just want to make sure that we're doing things as per the act in here in the chamber.
And during that committee of the whole meeting where we discussed the budget, there was no votes taken?
No, but I just want to be sure
Yeah, I
that
just don't want
we're,
to cloud the issue.
no, I just want to make sure that we are clear about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and that maybe if there is training needed, because there's been some question and discussion around, especially the conflict issue and, meetings and how we're doing those. I just think it's,
We had that training at the start of the year with Sandy Council.
we had that meeting as well, with training as well with Gerard Lewis, and it was very clear in that meeting, the same thing, that we were not supposed to be taking decisions in committee of the whole, but there was a motion that we would. So I just want to make sure that we're following that, that's all. Thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Committee of the whole minutes from January 18th, 2022. Motion to adopt those, please.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Any questions, comment? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Planning land use development. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, it's going to be a short one. The only motion that I have there is to accept the permit listings for January 1st to the 21st as presented.
Second.
Before we move on, it says here that I left the meeting at 8 o'clock for the last motion, but it doesn't say that the Eastern Regional Appellate discussion when it happened. That happened after I left. So I just want to make sure that we have a public record for the past motion. It says that I left the meeting at 8 o'clock, which I did, but this point two happened.
It's chronological, right?
Okay.
So after you left, then the next item on the agenda came up. That's how it goes.
Just because I was declared in potential conflict, I want to make sure that the record shows unequivocally that this happened after I was out.
It does, though.
So,
Okay.
okay, thanks. Can we have it noted in the minutes?
Okay, I'm ready in the middle of a motion.
It's there in the minutes.
There,
It's
Mr.
chronological order. So as things happen in the meeting, they're recorded. So after you left the meeting, then requested the, then they dealt with the Eastern Regional Service Board decision. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's there.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Okay. Deputy Mayor. Should you make a motion?
I
Yes.
second it.
Seconded. Okay, all in favor?
And we had the other
Aye.
discussion, and just letting you know, right in the middle of that. So, Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
okay, thank you.
Well, it was a point of information. You're
Yeah,
allowed
but
to
we
do
were
that
in the
anytime.
middle of a,
But you're
of a
allowed to do
vote.
that- you're allowed
But
to
we
do
were in the
anytime.
middle of a vote for this one, for the planning and
I
development.
realize. Okay.
Do we get the vote on that? Did everyone,
Yes.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
couldn't tell you were
Permits
inserting
listing.
something
It
in
was
between?
moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Pollard. Mayor?
Yep.
No one to vote.
Yeah, we did. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We didn't?
Thanks, CAO. I didn't think we did that. No,
I
that's
didn't
why
either, I couldn't.
There is a typo in there, though. One of the, I think it's a typo, Flora Drive instead of Fora Drive. I noticed that when I was going through the package. It's on page 102 of 263.
The rest for the minutes, if anybody has got, in essence of time, any questions or what have you, and the report is in there for the commissioners and that as well. And I think it's all pretty much self-explanatory.
Okay. All right, seeing none, moving on. Admin and Human Resources. Councillor Manning,
That will be me.
don't forget to turn on your microphone and bend it down a little bit so people can hear your wonderful, newly cured up voice.
do have
I don't think
it
you're on.
I think it's on. There it is.
Yeah, it's,
Good.
I think, yeah.
Alrighty then. Okay, we had a meeting on Tuesday, January 18th,
Okay.
2022, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. It's myself and Councillor, Darren, you had to fix that. Attending was myself, Councillor Tapper, and Director of Human Resources, Mark Whalen. So the agenda items were, number one, recruitment and selection. We were provided an update on the conclusion of the Corporate Services Administrator competitive selection process. Position is now staffed, and the successful incumbent commenced in the role on Monday, December the 27th, 2021. An update was provided on the competitive selection process related to the planning technician vacancy currently within the Planning and Development Department. So that's all in the process, that one is. We went on to the occupational health and safety and the COVID-19 updates. We were provided current COVID-19 measurements and protocols in place at the town hall and depot and the community centre in an effort to keep everyone safe. All staff have been advised or were advised in an email of the current provisions in place. With respect to town operations, and a reminder was included to ensure that all staff remain vigilant and adhere to all public health guidelines currently in place with respect to self-assessment, and what to do if you have symptoms, and finally what to do if you have to arrange for a COVID test. The Director of Human Resources, along with the CAO, will continue to monitor the situation closely and support both directors and staff alike on any issues or inquiries that arise on a daily basis. And the meeting was adjourned at 11:20. Any questions?
I just got one question, and it's probably from CAO to get the name of our new Corporate Services Administrator.
Correct, yes. Yeah, it's Tracy Nichols. Yeah, but we'll have that reflected in the next set of minutes for
Okay.
public record.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Any questions? All right, moving on. Admin and Human Resources, Councillor Tapper. No, Corporate Services, Councillor Tapper. No, Admin and Human Resources, there we go, carry on.
Okay, we'll deal with the corporate services report first. As in your package. The payroll for 38 employees for a 2-week period ended January 14th, 2022 to total $67,706.73. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended January 14, 2022. Invoices in the amount of $167,103.72 were processed. We have some invoices for approval. There are 8 operating invoices totaling $138,919.29. So here they are for approval. Invoice 6654, Town Suite, Annual Support Services, $33,203.66. January 1st to 15th, 2022, Receiver General, Employee Source Deductions, $38,737.92. Invoice 258, H&M Paving Limited, Road Repairs, $9,487.50. Invoice 257, H&M Paving Limited, Road Repairs, $13,455. Invoice 256, H&M Paving Limited, Road Repairs, $12,592.50. December the 31st, 2021, NL Power, Street Lighting, $19,976.71. January 1st, 2022, Andrew McDonald Insurance Services, Fire Department Accident and Sickness Insurance, $6,314. Invoice 38417, Commissioners, Municipal Enforcement, December the 12th to 25th, 2021, $5,152. Move that these be approved for payment.
Second?
Moved, seconded. Questions?
I've got a question. The January 2022 with Andrew McDonald for the Fire Department Accident and Sickness Insurance, did we go to tender for that? How did that tend to be? How's that contract established? Was there fair and equal opportunity provided for anyone to participate on that? Is there a standard plan in place? I'm not sure what the deal is there.
I know there are only so many insurance providers. I would have to check with the department on that. I know they did get 3 quotes year prior, so it's a very limited call.
We have our procurement policy in place, and my understanding is the fire department would fall underneath that as a branch of council. So can you make sure that that's being followed there, Don? Thank you.
Okay. Tony?
Just one question on the H&M Paving and Limited Road Repairs. I'm assuming that that's part of the tender we did earlier this summer for the patching and individual road repairs that we identified.
Yes, that's correct.
Do we know where we stand in terms of, is that all done now? Has that all been invoiced? And the only reason I ask is not that I don't want it. It's hard to be up to date all the time. We're in January. I'm assuming that the work was probably finished prior to November, and we're just getting the trailing invoices in now. So I like things to move through a little faster, rather than it seems like we're spending this year's money when it's actually last year's money and things of that nature. So
Yes, they were, those invoices are from late November, early December, it's the last couple of patches that we did
Okay.
from last year's budget.
thanks.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the following capital invoice in the amount of $7,356.45 is presented for approval. Invoice G411947, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Water System Upgrades, $7,356.45. Move for payment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Can I ask what the scope was of the work that was done for the $7,000?
Sure, that's a portion of our flow meter project that's been ongoing over the last year.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
There
Sure.
are other minutes and background reports there for committee minutes, January 20th, 2022. The agenda items for the January 20th meeting. There's invoice processed, revenues and expenditures, 2 reports. Are there any questions?
I have a question. It says here under the History House that discussions were held around the museum's request to transfer funds, but it also talks about the garage, converting the garage to a storage facility. And it says here, these requests were presented to council on November 16th, 2021 during the budget presentations. And these requests have been before council since that date. The thing is, there is no decision of council on this. And I know when we were debating the History House in the budget, I asked the question, why are the History House costs and fees showing up in the spreadsheet for our budget? Because the History House is a separate incorporated entity from the town. So, with a board of directors that runs it. So if there were to be a storage facility created with a garage next to it, that would be my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that would be an asset that's decided by the town that would move forward. It lends in this report here to think that because the presentation was made on November 16th, that is before council and council's agreeing to it. But if there's actually a move afoot here for council to discuss that, then I think that needs to come through the appropriate department, which would be Infrastructure and Works, and then to be discussed at committee, and then for that to come forward to council for a recommendation and or decision. But as I understand it right now, this is not something that we have agreed on, and I'm informed that the museum staff person is out applying for resources for this when we don't have a decision of council that we're going to do it. So I just want to be clear that that's my understanding of what's going on here. And if there is actually going to be a discussion around making that storage space or that garage into a storage facility, the costs that would be associated, the timeline, what risk would be to the town, the impacts on the budget, all that stuff would have to come through council properly, and I haven't seen any of it.
It came through the budget process. Same
It didn't, no, there's no decision of council that we agree on it.
The
That,
decision of council, Councillor, but you're asking me a question, I'm going to give you
Yeah.
an answer. The decision of council is coming tonight. All through the budget process, when departments made their presentations, whether it was museum or public works or recreation or whatever, they brought forward their budget presentation. So all through this whole process, council made decisions of what stayed in the budget, what came out. We discussed what stays in, we discussed what stays out. And so that's where the discussion happened. And it'll get a decision of council made when the budget is adopted.
so Mayor, what you're telling me is that council discussed it during private budget deliberations. If we're going to spend money on a storage facility, changing the garage over there into a storage facility, and council's going to bring that forward tonight and adopt it under the budget without having any public debate or discussion about if we should invest the money in there. All this was done behind closed doors. That's what you're telling
The
me.
same as we would do with a new loader that was proposed in the public works budget, or things that are proposed in other departments. It comes forward as part of the budget and council makes a decision.
And council made the decision during private budget deliberations, and it didn't happen in the public chamber.
The draft budget that we had presented was presented in the public.
But what happens with the budget is,
All right,
the
you
point
asked the
is, the
question.
budget comes forward and says, this is what we're proposing, we'll spend the money on. The
Right.
decision to actually do this and make sure that there is a storage facility there has not been debated in the public chamber. So if you set the money aside in the budget, that's one thing. That's one thing council can do. What I'm asking for is a public discussion and debate around, should we invest money into a storage facility in the garage there that comes through the department, which should be Infrastructure and Public Works, to present a recommendation to have a decision on that. Just because we allocate money in a budget for roads doesn't mean we don't bring a motion forward to council. That's what I'm saying,
No, I agree,
right?
right?
Okay.
CAO, can you give some clarification on that, or?
But I think a decision is required of council, because the way this reflects here is because the presentation was made on November 16th,
You-
that has been before us. And
you
I'm
asked-
just saying we
you
haven't
asked-
made a decision
You
to
asked a
it.
question, and I'm asking the CAO to
Yeah,
give some clarification.
that's fine.
So we've held a consistent budget approach since my time with the town. There's been department presentations, council discusses the presentations. Comes to consensus, we review the expenditures, bring back the information to council, and then the budget is ratified in the public chamber, and then it's posted on the website for all residents to see in detail. So it did come forth as part of the museum manager's budget presentation. If council did not want to entertain that, it would have been removed once we met with the particular staff on their budgets.
Okay, thank you.
In further reference to that.
And it
the-
was clarified too that the museum manager is indeed applying for external funding, and the net cost to that request is $3,000.
Councillor Pollard?
Actually, the net cost on that particular one was zero in the budget, because they were gonna use it.
But
funding, but that's-
overall,
would-
the
that
History
would- That
House
would have to come
budget.
back to council for a decision to actually do that.
Right.
But they are applying for funding.
Same
through
as,
the nature fund.
same as any other proposal in the budget. Before it is expended, it has to come back to council for a decision, recommendation. All right. Thank you. Councillor Tepper?
Okay, it's time for the budget. I will do a summary in my speech, and then we'll go on to the motions,
All right,
if that's appropriate.
sounds good.
Don, what about that?
He's gonna do that before the motions. He's just gonna read the speech first. Yeah.
Okay, 2022 budget speech. Mayor Scott and my fellow members of council, as chair of the Corporate Services Committee, I am pleased to present the 2022 budget to council this evening. As per legislation, municipalities are required to pass a balanced budget. As a community heavily reliant on residential taxation to offer programs and services, striking the balance is never easy. The COVID-19 pandemic and declining property assessments continue to provide challenges to offering levels of service to which residents have been accustomed. North Pond, our municipal water supply, is near capacity, which hinders growth and development, and as a result, restricts revenue growth to offset operating expenditures. At the beginning of each term of council, council sets its vision, which guides the strategic priorities to be accomplished over the 4-year mandate. These priorities are selected based on resident feedback. Later this month, council will meet and determine its goals for the remainder of the term to 2025. The current strategic plan of 2018 to 2021 currently remains in effect. Priorities were based on resident feedback and mandated core services as per the Municipalities Act. Infrastructure investments get down to the basics and come at a significant price tag. Water quality, estimated at $5.5 million. Wastewater treatment, $15 million. Mitigating climate change via stormwater management, $10 million. Road improvements in excess of $10 million. And sidewalks along Torbay Road, $4.9 million. The quality of life for residents is reflected in the construction of a new community centre, $9.4 million. Trail construction, $200,000 committed annually. And recreation facilities, playgrounds, open spaces, and ball soccer fields. At every opportunity, the town of Torbay applies for federal and provincial government funding to help offset capital construction of each initiative. Whether this is 33-cent dollars or 50-cent dollars, and we have been successful in leveraging funds, for example, $606,389,089 for the community center, $372,892 for the history house, $1,550,000 for zone meters and leak detection, $600,000 for sidewalks, phase 1 along Torbay Road. The 2019-2024 gas tax agreement has enabled council to allocate $2.1 million to infrastructure, specifically $1,769,618 to road improvements and $300,018,585 to stormwater infrastructure along Shays Lane and Cannon Marsh Road. Previous infrastructure investments include the construction of the municipal depot, $7 million, the town's portion, $1.5 million towards the capital construction of the Jack Byrne Regional Sports and Entertainment Centre. In total, the town of Torbay has secured $22.6 million in federal and provincial funding to help offset infrastructure investments in the town of Torbay since 2005. Adding the town's portion, that's infrastructure investment of over $30 million. The town's portion has been covered through fiscal management and the capacity to borrow, all without impacting the mill rate. The fact is, the town's mill rates have not increased since 2013. Infrastructure development is never done. Plans must be made for construction, maintenance, and replacement of infrastructure. The federal government has mandated all municipalities from coast to coast to coast in Canada to develop an asset management strategy to ensure levels of service can be maintained and sustained well into the future. The town will take its first steps to achieving this goal starting in 2022. This will also include a 10-year financial model. If council does not make efforts to complete its asset management plan, it risks losing future gas tax funding and having to repay the previous funds. For example, the 2019 to 2024 agreement has allocated $2.46 million to the town of Torbay, with $725,268 to be provided in 2022-24. While much work has been done, much work remains. This council was elected on September 28, 2021, sworn in on October 4, 2021, and began work in earnest, having an intensive orientation along with legislation and department overviews and budget 2022. This year's budget work commenced in October 2021 and consisted of resident engagement, in-person presentations representing respecting COVID protocols, 2 resident presentations, and an online survey with 231 responses, department presentations, 8 committee of the whole meetings, resulting in 7 budget drafts before reaching the legislative requirement of a balanced budget. The December 15, 2021 public presentation had a balanced budget with a residential property mill rate of 7.5. One resident submitted feedback for council's consideration at this public presentation. Council listened to the additional resident feedback after the December 15, 2021 presentation and deferred the budget adoption to the night, January 24, 2022. Council took the extra time to reflect, review, and discuss and determine if additional expenditures could be reduced without impacting services. Like most municipalities in the province, property assessments are now provided on an annual basis versus the previous 3-year base date, which better reflects the current market, but also makes it more challenging if there is a decline in assessments. This in turn potentially impacts operating revenues once the mill rate is applied. Since 2017, total assessment property values have increased to that's in Torbay, to a high of $1.077 billion in 2020, to a low of $974 million in 2022. 2021 saw a decrease in residential property assessments as well, in the amount of $43.47 million. The previous council balanced the 2021 budget by using COVID restart funds of $464,000 and an input tax credit, HST rebate, from the community center construction of $150,000 for a total of $614,000. These funds were one-time and are no longer available to the municipality to be utilized to offset expenditures in 2022. Council is also bound by the provincial government's Community Sustainability Partnership, in which we must keep own source revenues on a per capita per resident basis as per 2015 taxation levels. In 2015, revenue per capita was 1,015. 7 years later, in 2022, at a 5.05 mill rate per capita, will be 1083, a $67.50 increase. Non-compliance would mean a loss of gas tax funding, the annual municipal operating grant, in addition to no approvals to borrow. This would be catastrophic for the town of Torbay, as we would not be able to avail of cost-shared government funding programs to support capital infrastructure investment, nor have the necessary funds to maintain core services within our community. Fortunately, the town of Torbay remains compliant to date. When commencing the 2022 budget process, it was confirmed that residential property assessments declined from 2021 in the amount of $59.6 million. To reconfirm, over a 2-year period, residential property assessments have decreased by $103 million, which provides challenges to council to maintain services. When property assessments are declining, operating costs are increasing, and there are no additional COVID restart funds to offset operations as we continue to live and operate in COVID. In fact, living in COVID has increased the municipality's operating costs. Council is committed to providing a safe work environment for its staff and acquires the necessary personal protective equipment and undertakes deep cleanings of all facilities as required. Living with COVID also impacts the operation of recreation facilities and associated revenue generation. Programs are either cancelled or offered at reduced numbers. We have issued staff layoffs due to COVID. Living with COVID and following public health guidelines presents its challenges to everyone. Please support the local business where and when you can, not only during COVID, but every day. Tonight, the Corporate Services Committee is recommending a total budget for the fiscal year of 2022 in the amount of $20,401,063, which includes $9,270,202 for day-to-day operations and $11,130,861 for total shared, for cost-shared capital infrastructure development. This budget will see a further reduction in the mill rate for residential property tax by 0.4 of a mill, 705 from the 7.5 mills proposed on December 2021. I'll repeat that again. That was proposed on December 15th, 2021, and we did adjust the mill rate downward. So we use $590,000 in reserves along with program and service reductions to balance the 2022 budget. In addition, Council is committed to developing a long-term financial plan that will balance infrastructure development, maintenance, and replacement, along with levels of service to ensure the long-term financial sustainability of the town. Because of declining assessments in 2021 and further declining assessments in 2022, most residents will see a reduction in their tax bill from the 20 amount. The average tax bill in 2022 will be $1,928 compared to $1,891 in 2021 and $1,983 in 2020. 0.2 of the mill rate increase from 6.7 to 6.9 makes up for the decrease in assessed values from the 2021 levels and puts the town back at 2021 revenue levels. The 0.15 adjustment from 6.9 to 7.05 funds the town's portion of the $3.498 million in both the multi-year capital works and investing in Canada infrastructure programs, with the provincial and federal governments providing $6.03 million for a total commitment of $9.5 billion in infrastructure development for the town of Torbay. In 2022, Council is offering several tax payment options that will assist residents and businesses. This includes a 12-month interest-free tax payment plan, the 25% property tax payment discount to those in receipt of the guaranteed income supplement, the 20% property tax payment discount to those who meet low-income thresholds, and a tax deferral program. Council encourages everyone to learn more about these programs and confirm your eligibility. Corporate services staff are available to answer all questions regarding these programs. Since the December 15, 2021 budget presentation, additional proposed reductions to the 2022 budget are as follows. Professional development reduced by 50% across the entire organization. Our partnership with the Town of Portugal Cove St. Phillips regarding municipal enforcement services will be terminated. The town will move to a summer security option only, similar to 2016 and prior. One full-time staff position will be repurposed. Traffic calming measures will be reduced by 50%. The town will no longer paint crosswalks on provincial government roads within the municipality. While the town has an aging equipment fleet, the maintenance budget will be reduced by $32,000 and kept in line with the 2021 budget. The procurement and construction of a salt storage shed will be eliminated. Several initiatives under the economic roadmap, town centre scheme and housing strategy, and climate change mitigation program, solar panel installation, composting, and engineered wetland feasibility are eliminated. The economic development and tourism budget will be reduced by 50%. The resident engagement platform MyTorbay will not be renewed. The service tracker platform will not be renewed. A proposed update to the recreation master plan will be cancelled. Recreation facility operational costs at Upper Tree Corner will be maintained at the 2021 budget level. The recreation program budget will see programs eliminated or reduced to prior year expenditure levels. Public relations donation resources will be reduced. The town's 50th anniversary celebrations will be scaled back and kept in line with previous year's festival commitments. Capital works investments will be completed over the 2022 and 2023 fiscal years. Council recognizes that it needs to do a better job on engaging and communicating with residents regarding the actual costs to operate a municipality. This will commence with a detailed budget newsletter to all residents, quarterly fiscal updates to the public, and additional measures, which will be confirmed over the coming weeks. What will be accomplished in 2022 then? I would like to highlight those initiatives to be completed in 2022 from an operational perspective: asset management, completion and digitization of the location and condition assessment of all town assets. Continued support to Torbay Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $488,795.78. Updating and exercising the town's emergency preparedness plan. Continuing sampling of our current water supply, North Pond, as for the town's permit to operate. Continued wastewater sampling and submission of results to the federal government as part of the wastewater regulations. The 5-year review of the 2017 to 2025 municipal plan and development regulations as mandated by legislation. Continued work on the feasibility of Grey Pond as a municipal water supply. A business retention and recovery survey to be administered to all local businesses. Redesign of the town's website to make it more user-friendly. opening up the History House and Museum in late June, early July. Expanded community partnerships to offer increased programs to the youth and young at heart in our community. Volunteerism continues to be the backbone of our community like all others. Our volunteers are tirelessly dedicated to improving our town and are the lifeblood that makes our beautiful town so unique. The town is delighted to continue to support the many community groups and committees in our town. Torbay Folk Arts Council, Torbay Lions Club, Torbay Harbour Authority, the High School Grad, Safe Grad, Torbay Library, and East Coast Trail Association. We will continue the trail development along Western Island Pond to the Bypass Road and proceed with new trail development in the Flora Drive neighbourhood. From a capital investment perspective, the town will, as part of the 2020-2023 multi-year capital works program, total funding in the amount of $3,800,145, which is cost shared with the provincial government, and the town's portion being $1,539,096. The town will borrow its share and will repay over a 15-year period. The following initiatives will be undertaking: emergency preparedness, procure a generator for the warming centre at Torbay Common at a cost of $289,200. Stormwater mitigation at the Gully, Whiteaways Pond, and Island Pond Brook at a cost of $1,432,775.28. Road improvements, 13 roads, namely Dumfries Lane, Cantwell Place, Gallows Cove Road, McCormick Place, Rossworthy Place, Hiscox Lane, Quarry Road Extension, Roblin Place, Gosses and Rogers Crescent, Bullockstown Road, and Witness Lane at a cost of $1,812,215.88. Open space and trails. Specific initiatives include trail development and repairs to the junior ball field at Upper Three Corner Pond Park, and the addition of a multi-purpose court at Pine Ridge Playground at a cost of $274,954. As part of the Investing in Infrastructure Canada program, the town will await the outcome of its application to improve the water quality at North Pond and complete sidewalks along Torbay Road from Mans Lane to Foodland and along Marine Drive to Lynch's Lane. The total cost shared funding request for both initiatives is $9,380,600, with the town's portion being $3,920,400, and will be covered by a fiscal borrow over 15 years. The town has budgeted based on June 1st, 2022 approval. Additions to the equipment fleet will see arrival of the sidewalk plow, procurement of a new pumper for the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, and a new loader and backhoe for the Infrastructure and Public Works Department. Delivery dates will be solely based on public procurement results once the tenders are issued and awarded. Phase 1 of the sidewalk construction along Torbay Road, which commenced in 2021, will be completed in the spring of 2022. 2022 will also see the installation of 6 zone meters within the serviced area of Torbay. This will enable the town to have more accurate information regarding water usage within the town and to assist with troubleshooting leaks within the system. Before concluding my summary of the 2022 budget, I would like to thank Mayor Scott, all council members and staff for the significant number of meetings and the number of hours that was required to balance this 22 town of Torbay budget. This was indeed a very stressful process. To me, it is ironic that as your mayor back in 2013, when the current mill rate was set at 6.7 mils, current Mayor Scott was also a member of that council. Through his term as mayor starting in 2018, that same mill rate was maintained throughout that term as well. I can assure you, neither of us, nor any member on this council would like to see that rate change, especially to move upward. However, in our current situation, I believe we have no other recourse and we must move forward. More details regarding the Town of Torbay 2022 budget will be found on the town's website in the coming days. I now ask for council's support as I present several motions required for the adoption of the 2022 budget for the Town of Torbay as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee.
Are we dealing with this one first time?
Correct, yeah.
So what's the, do you want to explain?
So there's a motion coming forth from Corporate Services Committee regarding wages for non-union staff. As there is an alleged conflict against Councillor Tapper, which council has yet to rule on. Councillor Tapper is going to remove himself from that vote, and then he will come back and bring forth the remainder of the budget motions.
Okay. Councillor Giles?
Excuse me. As is the norm in all Town of Torbay budgets, pay increases for unionized staff also applies to non-unionized staff. It is therefore included in the 2022 budget. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comment?
I'd like to comment.
Go ahead.
I've got to be honest, I've got some serious concerns about a pay increase for anybody at the Town of Torbay while residents are suffering at home and trying to make do. We heard Councillor Tapper in his budget speech talk about how the value of homes have depreciated. And the reason for that is because the economy has fallen apart, because people are laid off, because people can't find work, because people are struggling. And that recession was compounded with COVID, which makes it even that much harder. And I think that for us to bring forward tonight a budget and have a discussion that we are guaranteeing that our Town of Torbay staff are all going to get a 2.5 increase, when we don't have a policy that states that's actually how we do our business. That's not, it might be something that we've done because the staff inside want to be the same as the public works staff, but there is no set policy on that yet. And the question then that I have, that if there is a potential for conflict and we're asking Councillor Tapper to step out, then that raises a whole lot of other questions around participating in some of these discussions. But I think it's really important that the public knows. I'm very proud that we're having the transparency discussion, that the public is aware tonight, that there is a motion on the floor tonight so that there is an increase for town staff across the board while we're bringing this motion forward. But I can't vote for that. I can't support us saying, no, we're gonna make sure that the people, the staff and the people here at the town are getting a 2.5% increase across the board, but you're gonna have to pay out more when we're raising taxes. So I have a concern with that. I'm sorry, I can't support it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor?
I just want to, and it's my understanding that that 2.5 is part of the negotiations that took place last year, because the current contract don't expire until September 2022. And it has been the norm since I've been here. And I, for one, would not want to see a change that the inside staff, that's what we refer to them, that works in the office here, that they have always got the same pay increase that our unionized staff have got. In the past couple of years, there's been a couple of issues that it never came out right through the budget process. And they were delayed maybe for a year, and some might have gone into their second year because it was something that had been totally overlooked until somebody brought it to our attention. And the fact that that was already in there, it had been agreed in good faith from the last contract, I have no choice, and I am fully support of that motion for the inside staff to get the whatever increase, which was already predetermined from the last contract negotiations. This is not something new. That was part of the contract negotiations that they did 4 years ago, is that right? Every 4 years. So that was already decided as part of the negotiations. And that's why that's put in there, reading like it is. And while they get it in October, our inside staff don't get it until January. So I'd be supporting, obviously, that.
Point of clarification, Mayor. When Deputy Mayor Thorngoss is saying that there's a 2.5 that's pre-existing, that's for union staff only, as per part of the agreement that is in place, the current agreement with the union. There is no policy that states, that's adopted by council, that states that the inside staff get 2.5%. And she is quite right. There have been situations in my term of this council where staff have not received that 2.5 regularly or ongoing. So those are issues that I think needed some clarification. Thanks.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Pollard?
I'll speak to it, sure. I don't have an issue with the 2.5, and mainly, you know, it is tied to the union negotiation, and I don't think that we should treat internal staff any differently than we do our unionized staff, at least not to give them any less because we can because they haven't had a collective bargaining process. It also helps to serve to keep, you know, the collective bargaining process outside and not inside internally. We did also, and Councillor Appleby, yourself and myself know how much trouble we went through this time last year, might be last year, year after, who knows, but hours and days that we actually spent in trying to maintain staffing level because certain things weren't addressed, and we went through agony, and the cost of that is minimized compared to, you know, what we're talking here, and this is minimal to that. So I think overall that this is a good move. If we want to talk about salaries, we need to look at things in the longer term view and make sure that people are getting the value for money. If we see that they're not getting the value for money, then we should take a different course of action. But as for a yearly increase, and especially when we know that the folks on the union side are getting, I think we should honor that for inside staff as well.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just a point of clarification on that as well, Mayor. The issues
You've already
that,
spoken to the motion and now add a second time.
yes, but he referenced me in his comment, and the point of clarification I want to make
Go ahead.
is just that the issues that we had, the HR issues last year, were not about solely around pay. There were a lot of different things that were in the discussion, and pay was not primary issue that caused, he's right, there was a lot of problems, and we had to work through them, but it was not solely about pay or
All right.
about 2.5 increase. Thank you.
So,
Okay, I'll just,
I was just gonna comment quickly, right? You know, I think that we value our employees here. We try to. A lot of those issues, you're right, they weren't all salary related. To me, they were mostly council related, but, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But, you know, I think that over the years, since I've been here certainly, and for the last 4 years of our last term of council, we had no issue with treating our inside workers in the same manner that we do with our unionized workers who have the capability to negotiate contracts. We don't know where we're gonna be in September, October 2022 when the new negotiations come. We will go and negotiate with our employees in good faith. That's our job and what we need to do. So, you know, I think it's important that our inside staff feel as important as our outside staff who have that bargaining capability. This is not a big dollar amount. It's very minimal, I think, when you look at the number of staff. So I'm in support of it. All right. Call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Can we get Councillor Tepper? Please. to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the first motion, that the town of Torbay adopt a tax and fee structure schedule for 2022 as presented. The 2022 schedule will be advertised in a February edition of the Northeast Avalon Times newspaper, posted on the town's website, provided with the 2022 budget newsletter. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Comment?
I will. I don't agree with the town of Torbay raising taxes.
Excuse, hang on now for a second. Are you going to speak to this motion?
I am. The tax fee structure schedule for 2020 is presented.
Right,
That's what I'm speaking to.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So I don't agree with the tax fee and the structure schedule for 2022 as presented. I don't think that this is the time for us to be increasing our mill rate. Been very clear in all of the meetings that I participated. There was one I missed, but every one of the other ones I was in. And I want to be very clear that I don't think that decisions made in this year on taxes weren't discussion items that we could have talked about in the longer term. I've listened to residents. I hear them when they say they are suffering, and a lot of people I know are. And people are trying to apply for jobs, they can't get jobs. People are laid off through no fault of their own. Businesses are closed through no fault of their own. And I'm very concerned that the impact of the tax increase that we are planning to adopt here this evening is going to have impacts with people. And I know I've heard the argument that, okay, well, yeah, no, the property house levels are going down, so you haven't got to worry about your taxes increasing. But the thing is, if the property levels are going down, I believe Councillor Tapper said, you know, they're down by 1.3 million, was what I heard in his speech. And if that's the case, what that tells me is that people don't have the same equity in their home if they need to take advantage of that, if they are financially struggling, if they don't have the same opportunity to find work, have work, to find food to put on their table. I think now is a very poor time for us to do that. So I'm going to vote against this motion tonight and many of the motions that are here. I do want to applaud council for the work that has been put in, and in all fairness, there were a lot of meetings, there was a lot of debate, and at the end of the day, because I don't agree with this mill rate, it's not a reflection of the work that has been done in the discussions. Those have happened. I will give credit there. But I just cannot support this. And I just want to make the point that in the last 4 years, every single time we had this discussion around the budget, it was the same thing. I did not believe coming out of a recession, coming into a pandemic, that it was a good time for us to raise taxes. And I have concerns with that. So I am hopeful. I know that council is looking to do strategic planning in the new year. And I am hopeful that we will take a lens, instead of it being a per year discussion, but over the next 3 years for this term, at least 3 to 4 years, that we look at the lens of the impact of what budget items we have coming over that time frame, what potential that might have as far as taxes are concerned. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comment?
Sure.
All right.
Actually, I don't know when I was going to speak about this, you know, it's funny, but now that the floor is open at this point in time, I guess, I will be voting to adopt the schedule of fees, so I'm, you know, I can't go with any preconceived notions that I won't vote for. No one wants a tax increase. I think that's a fair statement, and I think that's what, you know, at the end of the day, that's what our mantra has been. We tried to get to a point where we have no tax increase. Will there ever be a good time for a tax increase? I don't think so. I mean, I know for the past, well, this is the 5th year now for the 5th budget, and there's never been any willingness at all to increase the mill rate. We've always actually gone backwards in terms of not even maintain our existing revenue. To Councillor Tapper's discussions, we used $468,000 worth of COVID money plus $100 and some odd thousand worth of HST money last year to balance the budget. And this year, again, we're using some extra $500,000 to balance. So, you know, $500,000 equates to about 0.5 mil. So what it means, if we don't start taking a long-term view, and I agree to Councillor Appleby, and I've said many times around this table that we need that longer-term view, because we can't really, you know, plan what our revenues look like until we actually do a longer-term plan. But the I lost my train of thought at that time. The mill rate itself left us, I guess, if we didn't change the mill rate, we'd still be at 2020 revenues from a taxation. So there was 300 some odd $1,000 I think we dropped last year from a mill rate perspective, and another 100 and some odd $1,000 this year. So that would have been, you know, $300,000 and $400,000 in as a cumulative this year. So it would have been some $700,000, I guess, that we actually considered from, you know, residents in the town. I had some discussions with those folks outside today, residents outside, who you know, it was great that they showed up, and I said to them that, you know, I wish they had been here when we sent out the surveys on where we want to be with you know, sidewalks and you know, stormwater management, and how we pushed for that in the past couple of years, or how residents pushed for that, and we're now in a situation where we have to start paying for some of these things. And we just can't retrench in 1 year. We have to take that longer term view to find out how we actually change our direction. And that's part and parcel of where our strategic plan is going to come in, so that we can make that longer term plan. I think council did a very good job in terms of moving backwards and listening to residents. And I think the communication around that, and Councillor Tapper mentioned that as well, in terms of doing a better job on a go-forward basis. But when it went out and we were at 7.5, we presented, we got a lot of feedback. We said, okay, let's put the brakes on, let's come back and look and see what we can do. We reduced it to 7.05.
Time.
And I know in
Time.
some
Time. There's other motions, you'll have your chance. Anyone else? I'll have a quick comment. I'll make sure that I don't go over my time now. I think that to Councillor Tapper's point, and I mean to everybody's point, we made a conscious decision last year as our council. In the first year, or basically year and a half of the COVID, we had a big decrease in our assessments, almost, well, 450,000 or almost, you know. Since I've been here, and Councillor Tapper alluded to it, we haven't gone out, we've never budgeted to the point where we had to increase taxes. Increasing the mill rate or lowering the mill rate is not increasing taxes or lowering taxes to a certain point. We could have increased our mill rate last year by 0.4 and had it from 6.7 to 7.1, and we would not have had a tax increase. But in keeping with the concern for residents, we used all that one-time money that we had. Now, that $560,000 that we used only served for $560,000 for 1 year. We could have took that money and we could have got $10 million worth of stuff for that. You know, and so I was against doing that last year. However, council took a decision, and I being part of council, agreed with that and moved forward, even though I was against it. I could have, you know, whatever, but I think that, you know, for the good of this table and for the town, that we took a decision and we moved forward with it, and that's what we did. I think now that decision that we made is compounded by the fact that the assessments went down again this year, another loss in revenue to the town. We try and maintain a certain revenue level so that we can plan for the future. We can build these things that we need to do. We can make sidewalks. We can do those things and be confident that we're going to be not jacking taxes up all in 1 year on the residents. And I think that we kind of dug ourselves a little bit of a hole, but we're going to have to try and slowly climb our way back out of it and get back to a point where residents can be confident that every time a budget comes around, that taxes are going to remain fairly consistent. And I think that's all the best we could ask for. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Goss.
So, going through this process for the first time and being a first-term councillor, it's been quite an eye-opener. And I just wanted to let our residents know that everything was listened to, all the comments, all the emails that we saw, and everything that once we came back from after December and our January to now, the amount of time and the effort that's been put in here, nothing has fallen by the wayside. We've looked at every opportunity to bring some values into what were considered I guess, better dollars spent. But one thing that I'd like to let everybody know, that being a part of this process and seeing what it actually takes to run a municipality, it's very much an eye-opener. And, you know, just want everybody to know that there's more to it than meets the eye. And I really think there's some common ground struck on this, 7.05. And I feel very good in backing up that what we've done here today and in the past.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Manning.
I'm in the same situation as Councillor Goss. First time, first term. Absolutely an eye-opener. I do not regret not 5 minutes of the time spent around this chamber, me mostly listening to everything that was being said concerning the budget in here, but also with all the residents' thoughts and comments being brought forward here, and fully, without a doubt, taken into consideration, each and every one. I too have seniors. My parents are seniors. They're in the same boat as a lot of other people. So it's not that we don't know. Anyone around this table does not know what's going on out there or what could possibly be going on out there. We listened to everything. The discussions were held. Points of view were taken. And as Councillor Goss said, I'll go back to it, definitely an eye-opener. I've been involved in different organizations where finances were considered an issue, but absolutely nothing to this extent. I feel comfortable in what I partook in. I feel comfortable with the input that everyone around here put into it. And as was also said, it's not black and white. It is absolutely not black and white. As much as there may be a lot of people out there think it is, it absolutely isn't. I too am I okay with it? I would love to see no increase. But at this stage and where I feel we are, I am okay with the 7.05. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bear.
I'd just like to thank the Finance Committee, Council, and the staff, Norm back there, and the other directors from the initial cuts that we made prior to even getting this far for the past few months. During all my time on council, this is the first time we never adopted the town budget prior to Christmas. And yes, we are in the middle of the pandemic, and so many families are struggling. We haven't increased, as you heard, the mill rate in over 8 years, and the price of gas, electricity, it's no for everyone, but it's also increasing for the town. This has been one, for me, the most difficult budgets to balance. For one thing, for me personally, I know that we went around, we brainstormed. I didn't leave no stone unturned in going through this process from the first night we were asked to come here. While not all of the suggestions that I made were accepted or supported by everyone as a team, we brought forward as a team, for the most part, all that made sense and that was manageable. And that's where I need to look at it. For one, I found it stressful because I knew what the residents are saying, despite what you may think that I hear you. I agree with the 7.05% mill rate increase because I have been advised on an average it will mean very little of an increase to you and the actual taxes. New councillors, I know that it was a huge learning curve, as we just said, and that came into play with all of this as well. I noticed that on Facebook, and we received an email and I thought it was wonderful suggestions. And I need to look at this and say, I'm probably running out of time there, Don, but I'll keep going until you tell me. We use COVID stimulus funding to offset last year's balance And we reviewed the recreation fees, we reviewed spending cuts to most departments, looked at ways to improve day-to-day operations, used our reserve last year, and again, which I want to warn residents, is $500,000 this year. We don't have that in the budget to go back on for next year. And I want to remind everyone of that we're going to be in the same situation with regards to coming up with money. We moved staff, which is not an easy thing to do, and as Councillor Tapper said, we canceled the contract with the commissionaires. And other internal alignments, we removed most studies except the ones we felt critical to the operations. However, we are committed to looking at how we can work together with the various user groups, and I didn't want to mention any in particular, but that's very important, and we all agree to that. I personally feel that while we haven't tightened the belt, we may be able to tighten it a little bit more, but not without negatively affecting our programs and services.
Okay, thank you.
I just got a glass of water. I'm gonna step out for a second while she's getting her water.
All right, well, can we vote first and then?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, sure.
Councillor Tapper hasn't spoke to the motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want-
Rhonda, if you want to step out, go ahead. Okay.
I just want to say, I'm new to this council, but I'm not new to this process. This is my 13th budget. And although I'm losing my memory, it's getting bad, I don't recall ever voting against either one of those budgets. We went through the same, and this was most difficult, I must say. I can't say we went through the same, stress and everything else, but this was a difficult one. But the thing is, you can't please everybody. You can't blame everything on COVID, because over those years, we've been in many, many situations when it comes to this town and what we want and what we came up with. New community center, the Jack Byrne Arena, go back to the bypass road. There was people out protesting that, but look at how the town grew. We do have a serious situation with water. And as I suggested in these talks, I think we got to take the step. We got a letter that came along 4 years ago or whenever that supports us going to the federal government, who's responsible for it, to get some money. Because we're putting money into now Grey Pond. We spent millions on our current water supply, but it's not getting us anywhere. We've got a development with 180 units on hold. There's another one proposed for in off Bottling Line, over 200 units. So where's the water going to come from? It'll be a great base for increased revenue. That's where we're stuck. Our revenue is not improving at all. There's very few homes being constructed. So I just want to bring, because, and I'll repeat it, no matter what the situation, every year a budget is going to be difficult to get through. And but I think we got to come together and put our heads together and come up with some new ideas, and get us back on track, because our town center down there, business base, it's there for 10 years now since we talked about it. I'm sure, things like that. They got to move. They got to help to get us away from the residential taxation. We can't do everything on that. We got to get businesses in this town, but the only way to do it is get water. So I think that's going to be priority. You talk about the strategic plan, that should be number one. Thank you.
Okay, call the question. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried.
Okay, next, that the town of Torbay's residential property mill rate for the 2022 taxation year be set at 7.05 mils. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Can I pick up where I left off?
Go ahead, sir.
I'm joking, I was gonna pick up in the middle of .05, but Yeah, I think I just wanted to echo Councillor Tapper's statements, and I had them written down here, and I was trying to tick them off as he was saying them. I think it's important for us to move beyond the residential tax base, and unfortunately, that's what Torbay is at the present time. No matter what we do, it comes either from, you know, grants from the government, which we still have to cost share, and whatever we spend from Torbay's perspective, shall we say, actually has to come from a residential tax base, which is not great. We're compared to St. John's, Paradise, you know, Mount Pearl, but they have industrial parks. They have a much larger business base, which contributes a lot more and provides the opportunity for them to subsidise their actual residential base. So I think that's very important. Councillor Tapper also talked about the water, and I think that's where we definitely have to push as a group, as a united group, to push feds and the province in terms of getting us onto the regional water system, or outlaying the funds for us to, you know, hold off until we come to a water solution ourselves, but not at the cost of Torbay's dollars, or Torbay's tax dollars. I think we're owed that, and I think we really need to push that way. And so that's what I have to say on that one. Thanks.
All right, anyone else?
I just want to add, I guess, that, well, I highly recommend, and myself and that the council and staff continue to look for additional efficiencies in all departments as the year goes by. And a lot of what we had talked about, probably in the fact that new council again we're in, and we'll have a strategic plan, we'll be able to look and have a better handle on a go-forward basis. I agree with what I'm hearing from everyone, that times are tough, and tough times require everyone to work together as a team and see where we may find cost savings. With the 7.05% mill increase, it's not the all-deal recommendation, and I would have been one of the ones, it's easy to say, to go, we want 0%, but finding those savings so that the town not jeopardize the day-to-day operations of the town, and that's basically where we would be if you looked at a 0 increase in savings. And you know, I looked at this from every which angle and to know that what the impact would be. And despite all of this, what some residents are saying, we still had residents looking and are still saying that they want more sidewalks, the road repairs, and stormwater management increase. And keeping in mind, while we have these still in the budget and our trails, and we've got the new water supply, the sewage treatment and all that, all of these will be cost shared with the federal and provincial government. The same thing with the History House and Museum. People think that we're continuously putting funding, but there was a large portion of that funding that went in there from ACOA and is not actually taxes from the town. So I'd like to put that all out there and to say, while it's not what everybody would like to see, I'm in support of it, and thank you.
Yep. Well, good.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, one of the comments that was made was that we have to ensure the operation of the town, but at what level? And I would suggest that the people that put us here, who asked us to work on their behalf, think about them and their challenges in these very exceptional times. The increase of the 7.05 mils to homes is going to have potential impacts to how they can operate their homes. And I think that, you know, people were very clear when we talked about a 7.5 mil increase. They said, no, absolutely not. And it wasn't get it down to 7.05. It was, we are not in a position right now where we can take this. And I heard you, Councillor Tapper, when you said you've never voted against a budget, and that's your prerogative. But I have to be honest with you, I can't get there. I hear from people who are calling me and saying, Trina, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I can't afford to live here. We don't make enough money. I don't know how this is going to roll. Do I have to move out of this town? So I've got to be honest, I'm not trying to be difficult here. I do respect the work of council and staff to work through the budget process, absolutely. But I do think that, you know, we're talking right now about a 2.5 increase that we just had a motion about, that staff is all going to get an increase. And I will note that that was not in the public package that was released on Friday and was a surprise to me right now in this meeting tonight. So I think that we need to to make sure that as we have the further conversations around budgeting, planning, what we're doing, especially with the strategic planning exercise, that like Councillor Pollard and I said, we need to make sure that it's over a period of time and make sure that we're clear about what projects are we looking at, what are we going to do, and what tax implications could that be. And those spreadsheets, we've got a great resource in Norm. Thank you for all of your work. But that stuff can be laid out now in a spreadsheet where we can sit back and say, if we do this, what about that? So I think we need to do a little bit more work around that, but I'm sorry I can't support it. Thanks.
Anyone else? I just got a quick comment, and I think that, and this is gonna go to, I think that the town has to do, we, as members of council, and our staff, and, you know, even the media, we have to do a better job of communicating what it is that we're doing. Because a mill rate increase or a mill rate decrease is not necessarily an increase in tax. I had spoken to lots of people over the course of the last few weeks, and, you know, seniors calling me concerned that their taxes are going up. And when I actually got their address from them, and I went online and I worked out the calculation, their taxes were going down $200. And they said, what? But the mill rate has gone up. So we have to be honest with residents about what it is that we're doing. I've been here for 9 years. This is probably my 10th budget, 9th budget, right? Never yet did we have to, we've always jiggled with potentially with the mill rate, depending on what the assessments. But it's like the residents forgot we were here. They're upset now because the tax is going up. Yes, because the first time it's gone up in 9 years, they're surprised. They're wondering what the hell are we doing with the money. But if you look around town with sidewalks and buildings and all these things that we're doing, that's what we did with our money. That's what we did with their money, our money. It's everybody's money. It's not ours. We're just here to make sure that the town operates. And we have an obligation, yes, to the residents, but part of the obligation is making sure that the town operates correctly and provides the services that they want. I got an email from a resident the other day asking me, well, we can't have a tax increase, but we need another ice arena and we need a swimming pool and we need more sidewalks. And I just about fell off my chair. So I said, that's our fault as councillors, as whoever, that we need to communicate these things better to the residents, because I don't know where they think the money comes. It don't come on trees. It's our dollars that we spend, and the more of it that we can leverage. And that's why it took so long to get sidewalks started, because we waited until we were able to leverage some money from the provincial government where it wasn't $1 for $1 that the residents were spending to get those put in. It might be another 10 years before we're able to get any more, but that's the way we got to operate, and that's the way we've been doing it. That's why, like I said, they probably forgot that we were here sometimes, because their tax bill was coming, it was very similar, not big, gigantic jumps and drops. So, you know, do I want to raise tax? No, man, I've been here for 9 years, never did it once. I'm against it, but I still have an obligation to make sure the town operates correctly. So anyway, I'm fine with it is, and I want to thank everybody for all you've done. Okay. I'm gonna make sure I don't go over. Anybody else? Back to the chair. Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay,
Carry on, sir.
that the town of Torbay's commercial property mill rate for the 2022 taxation year be set at 11.5 mils. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I
Go
will.
ahead.
Again, I struggle with this. You know, we've got businesses that are closing. They're not able to open. They can't function. There have been some ability to work online. Some I've reached out to try to make sure that, you know, just because I had an interest in it and a background in it, to help people to actually volunteer, to say to some of the local businesses in the town, if you need help with getting online, like, I will donate my time to help you, because I know it's hard. That was the beginning of COVID. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's been very hard for very many to try to run their business. And now we're putting another mill increase on that. In the budget speech, you know, one of the things that we cut was economic development by 50%. So if you want to grow the businesses in the town, support the businesses that you have, you know, repurposing some of the time that the economic development officer is dedicating to economic development and cutting the budget in half makes it hard for economic development to actually happen. So again, it's back to the planning issue over time. It is something that we need to work about over the next term of council to see where we're going to be, and I'm looking forward to those discussions in strategic planning. I think it's very important, though, to make sure that we're recognizing the importance of having an economic development resource in the town, and also recognize the additional burden that we're putting on businesses. Thanks. And the last point I'll make is, to the point of this mill rate change, whether it's with the business or with a residential, but I'll stay with business because that's the motion we're on, it only depreciates if the property depreciates. So if you've got a new building, new land, you've done development to your workspace, you're unlikely to see the decrease in the assessed value of your property. So just to be clear about the calculation of the mill rate is based on the assessed value. So unless your assessed value has gone down of the property, you're going to see an increase. So I think that's where we need to come back and have a look at this, because that's how it's structured for the businesses and for the residents. If you aren't having a reduction in your property, that is an increase for you. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That the town of Torbay approved a transfer of budgetary surplus of $90,000 from 2021 to balance the 2022 budget. So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. Comments?
Just a question. Is there a specific use for that $90,000 that's being laid out that we want to talk about?
It's being put in revenue to balance the budget, right, on the revenue side?
Okay, just want to be sure. Thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That the town of Torbay approved the use of $500,000 of cash reserves of prior years to balance 2022 budget. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Yep, I'll speak to
Councillor
that
Pollard?
rather than, I should have taken the other one too, and I could have got an extra 3 minutes, couldn't I? It wasn't
Go
supposed
ahead.
to. I just want to, you know, I think that it's great. I mean, in discussions that we did, we actually went back and said, yeah, okay, let's see where we can cut as much as we can, and we did that. And we also said, well, let's take what we may have there from past year surpluses that we can actually bring forward and help balance the budget. It's important to realize that these are one-time dollars, and if we're taking that to subsidize operating revenue, then that's $500,000 has been made up next year from some tax base, and as we know, majority tax base is residential tax base, so it means we've got to look to find another $500,000 sometimes next year. I think it's important, and it goes to the education side. I think that's what I'm trying to do when I'm speaking, is that we have to realize that we don't have a lot of control over the dollars we're spending either at a time, and when we're asked to make cuts, we're making cuts not from the $8 million or $6 million that's tax base. Is actually around 50% less than that, because before we even come here, there's 50% of our costs that we're not going to wipe out. We've got debt of $1.6 million. Garbage collection contract that we're in is $500,000. Street lights are $216,000. Fire department is $490,000 unless we cut that all together. Insurance, $130,000. Municipal assessment agency, $107,000. Those figures alone total $1.3 million. And that's even before we talk about any staff that needs to come on, or any lights that keep the properties going, or anything along those lines. So that represents 40% of the $8 million budget, which includes business tax, property tax, commercial tax as well, our utility taxes and those type of things. So, I think as part of the education process, we got to realize that all these dollars we're talking about, we can only speak to 50% of them if we're lucky. So if we're asked to save a percentage, that's automatically 2%. If we've got to save 10%, that's 20% of a much smaller number. It makes it really, really hard to operate in. So it's just part of what everybody has to understand and know. COVID's a hard time, yes it is, but I don't think that decisions we make here are going to impact folks who are already COVID worried, shall we say. Like our contribution that I don't think is is huge. It's unfortunate that we have to do things, but we also have to provide services, and that's what we do. If not, there'd be greater consequences. People wouldn't be able to get out to emergency service or things along those lines. That'd probably increase because of COVID and whatever it is. So, you know, I think that we are a service-based organization, and people have to realize that. We respond to what residents need, and they're the services that we offer. And that a lot of the costs we inherit, and they're longer-term costs for any infrastructure works we do is covered off in that debt. And like I said, we can only control about 50% of what we actually budget on at any point in time anyway.
You? Anyone else?
Mayor, if I can speak to that. I think it's a good idea as well to bring forward the $500,000 of cash reserves at this point to help offset impacts for residents. But I just want to point to some of the things that Councillor Pollard said. He's right, you know, that the costs to operate are expensive. There's no question about that. But that's part of the discussion that you and I are having with MNL right now about regionalization across the province. And, you know, there's a discussion that's happening around the cost for those services that you're talking about. So clearing the roads and fire services. Do we need to have a fire department in every single town? Can we work together to reduce the cost? We are doing that with Flat Rock right now. We've got a service in place to do that. The council's taken a decision tonight in the budget to terminate a contract with the commissionaires. And, you know, I struggled with that one when we talked about it, because I don't see where we're going to get the same level of service for the same amount of cost. But so be it. I mean, the council's taken a decision that's fair. I think at the end of the day, though, the point that I wanted to make is that regionalization, regional cooperation, that discussion is ongoing and happening across the province. And I think it's very important that we have that discussion here across the Killick Coast. I know that CBS and St. John's and Mount Pearl and Paradise are having that conversation. And those mayors are working together to see how do we work together in synergies so we can operate more effectively and efficiently. And I would suggest, I know that we have attempted to, and we've had that conversation around animal control, around municipal enforcement, and we've had it around different things. I think it's important that we go back to have that conversation this year with our colleagues around the Killick Coast to see if there is an opportunity to have the discussions about how do we work better, how do we save money, can we find $500,000 worth of savings? I don't know, I can't say that we can, but I think that we need to have that conversation about, do we need to be paying for all these things ourselves individually? Is there an opportunity to work together? Conception Harbour is another town that's working with local towns in their area doing the same thing. I think we need to have that conversation about seeing, can we work collectively to do that? The other thing that I'll say, and I hate to say it, I know people aren't going to be happy with me, but that's okay. I think we need to have that conversation about, you know, shared services or privatization or those sorts of things to see what does that look like, and is there a possibility that we can have the same amount of service delivery just using different models. So I look forward to working with council and staff to see what solutions we have available to us in the new year. And I would ask that council does entertain looking at, you know, regional partnerships discussions to see if there's any way to reduce the ability to, the cost to deliver some of these services. Thanks.
Your worship, can I get a point of
You can do it on the next
clarification
motion. Do it on the next
No,
motion.
I need to do it on this one, if you don't mind, please.
Go ahead.
Just in reference, I was not suggesting we get rid of the fire department, I was suggesting that was an essential service. That's why I had it in my fixed cost, so my
Okay.
reference to the fire department was not to eliminate the fire department, it was certainly, now, regionalization is fine, but I'm just saying, that wasn't what I was saying, I was just saying
Okay.
that was part of the fixed cost, essential cost, so that's
I'll-
why, just so you know that.
I'll
Just
allow-
so everybody knows that.
I'll allow that correction.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I would say, you know what, it turns my stomach that we're taking another $500,000 that is one-time money, and we're using it to balance the budget. Last year we used $600,000. If we increased our mill rate last year by 0.4, as we've done forever, there would have been no tax increase, and we would have been at 7.1. This year, with another $200,000 loss in assessed value, we would have increased by 0.2, and our budget would have been at 7.3, and nobody would have got a tax increase, but we wouldn't have had the lower levels of service at the town. So I think that these things have consequences when you use one-time dollars that can be used to leverage other money. And I don't know that people understand. We are this close, it's very razor thin for us to meet our obligations under community sustainability program that the government has in place, that we as a municipality are required to maintain our own source revenue per capita based on 2015, because that's when the agreement came out. We are, I think, as of last year, we were $9 above that. If we had to drop down another 200,000, we would have been very close to losing that. So we would have lost our municipal operating grant, potentially our gas tax money, and our capacity to borrow. I mean, we would have been in real big trouble. So we got to remember, and this is part of my thing about communicating with residents, making sure that we're honest with them. You know, this increase that we're doing is a 0.15 increase. The 0.2 was really a given, that just to put us where we were to before, so we didn't go below that threshold and lose a bunch of other money that we wouldn't be able to do things with. So, you know, I don't like using one-time money to do things, because it's one-time money, right? So it's like taking your bonus that you get from work and planning your budget around it instead of just planning a holiday, if you're lucky enough to get a bonus. But anyway, to that, I'll pass it back to the chair. I know I'm rambling on, but this stuff is very important, I think, for people to understand.
Want to vote on that one?
Sure, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next, that council remuneration for the 2022 calendar year be set at 1.7% of operating budget. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Question.
Right,
Was it at 1.8 last year?
probably.
I just looking to confirm, is this a decrease in council remuneration?
It's not a decrease in the amount, it's a decrease in the percentage.
It's not a decrease in the amount, it's a decrease in the percentage.
If we had to
Okay.
leave the percentage as it was last year, our remuneration would have went up.
Okay, so this is keeping council remuneration where it was. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm right on that, Norm, right? Okay, thank you. Once, I'm right. Go ahead, Ralph.
I always speak to this one,
Go ahead.
going back for years. But anyway, I was the only one who recommended that we decrease across the board remuneration. You know, it's amazing that, you know, when you're elected, it's not considered a job for me, a paid position. I never, you know, looked at it that way. But, you know, there's a lot of time goes into this position of being on council, a lot of work. So, you know, I thought, you know, we're looking to cut. You know, I think it would have been a gesture if we at least cut a little bit off the remuneration. But I'll agree with council if this goes through. You know, it's part of the budget. And, but I'll be reflecting on the next paycheck I get and what it will go towards. So, just to make that point.
Point of clarification. I also asked about decreasing council's remuneration, and I also asked about taking out the $30,000 that we have for professional fees for council, so that council, if they did want to attend and participate in anything, that it would come out of the remuneration. So that was part of the discussion that we had the last time I sat here in the chair talking about the budget. I just want to be clear that that was something I agreed with, and I think I think you're right, Councillor Tapper. I think the discussion around, you know, if we are looking at a situation where we're asking residents to take an increase, that we should have that discussion. We should be ready to have it, and I was absolutely ready to have that discussion when we had it around the table. And I think that, you know, it's important that there is remuneration, and I know that my words have been twisted in the past around this, because at the end of the day, I'm a single parent. And so, you know, my kids are still young to try to coordinate to make things work so I can participate here in a meaningful way. That's always been something that's been important to making it so that I actually can participate here. But I think that you know, we need to have that discussion as council as to, if we're asking for tax increases to people, then what are we doing with our own remuneration? And I do applaud the fact that we went from 1.8 to 1.7 with this, but I just wanted to clarify that that was a point that I brought up as well, and that I did have that discussion. I did say the 30,000 that's in professional development could go as well.
That's fair
Thanks.
enough, and we're not gonna get into a big discussion around here about who made what point, but, go ahead.
No, I just want to add to that came up, and I know that Councillor Tapper made the decision, and I don't know what kind of appetite that it had, but I know that it came back at that time, and we basically, my suggestion was to eliminate the personal development for council, which was in last term, was $30,000. And I know while it's all not wiped out, there will be mandatory courses, was the reason that a portion of it was put in there, that not only new councillors will be required to take, but all of us. So looking at that, that's why that portion. And for what it's worth, we also reduced the personal development for all of staff. And some may even be decreased. Sorry, guys, if you don't already know it, but anyway, some may already be decreased more than that, so I want that to put out there along with, and I think that that's what we used rather than decreasing the remuneration down further. But the two of them outweigh, because now if we're to go anywhere or take in any training or conferences, the intent is that that will come out of our own money, rather than having any expenses paid for us to go attend anything, except for the mandatory training, and there's a big difference.
Right, thank you. Anyone else? I think I would just, comment on that. It's, I think it's important, and I'm hoping council still does it, even though that the professional development for council has been cut in half, that I would still implore you to take the opportunities to go to training and conferences to learn, because as you found out since you sit around this table, there is a lot to learn. There's a benefit to members of council going to meet with other people from other towns and learn what they're doing and see what's going on. And it's a useful thing. It's a benefit to council, and it's a benefit to the town. And if it's a benefit to the town, then it's a benefit to residents. We learn so we can make better decisions, instead of having a bunch of morons around making all kinds of whatever decisions, right? So I just, I sure half of what we get in this for our remuneration anyway, we lose in taxes. So it is what it is, I suppose. Back to you. Call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That 2022 budget, total budget for the town of Torbay in the amount of $20,401,063 be adopted. The breakdown is $9,270,202 for main operating and $11,130,861 for capital. So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Comments?
Can I ask
ahead.
that the $20 million budget be clearly broken out for residents once they get it, so they know what the $11 million is, what portion is ours, and what portion relates to grants and things of that nature? Because $20 million is a big number, and I would expect if we compare it to any other year, it'd probably be very, very large.
Yeah.
And just want to make sure that everyone totally understands that this is not coming from that well.
It is the intent, Councillor Pollard, to do that very fact, to have a comprehensive budget newsletter, not the 8.5 by 11 flyer that we've had in previous years with pie graphs. It would get into the breakdown of cost-shared programs, outlining department expenditures, income, assessed values, what mill rate means, what assessment means. It's going to be a very detailed budget newsletter.
Just speaking on that, is Councillor Tapper's speech going to be tabled as well? It is tabled
Yes,
already,
we
is
will
that correct?
post
So
that tomorrow
we will cover it.
on
Thanks.
the website, yes.
Get it.
Comment? I'm just gonna take this quick opportunity, because I haven't done it, but I'm gonna do it. I just wanna thank everybody for working on this budget. It was many hours, many meetings, a lot of work by staff, Thank you to all of our staff, especially Norm and Don. They spent many hours going down through this line by line by line, you know, and members of council that took it away, came back with identified savings that we could get. And, you know, I think Mary was way down in the weeds. $50 for this and $100 for that, but I mean, you know what, all credit to you. I think knowing that is that you really show how hard that we work to get this down to where it is that we feel is manageable and that the town operations don't suffer. It was a balance to find. We really tried, if we could have got lower, we would have, but, you know, it was really difficult. And I just want to thank everybody. And, you know, I want to thank the residents too for the feedback that they provided us in the original survey. 231 people, I think, Don, was the number, that provided us with guidance on what they were looking for in the budget. And unfortunately, when we put all that stuff in the budget that the residents were looking for, we gave them something that they weren't looking for, and that was a huge increase to the mill rate up to 7.5. So, you know, in keeping with that, they came back to us and we listened and we came back and we postponed adoption and we came back in here, we worked harder and put in more hours and reduced it to where we did. So I just want to thank everybody, thank the residents for their feedback prior and after that we did the draft budget. And, you know, everything here is a work in progress. You know, we make decisions today and tomorrow we'll see what come of them. So anyway, I just want to thank you and thank you, Ralph, for your chair of that committee and Ward being a new member of the council, being on the finance committee and having to deliver a budget a couple of months after that you got elected. You know, it's commendable. I thank you. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
3 more to go. That the town of Torbay approve a 25% tax reduction for those residents in receipt of the guaranteed income supplement under the Old Age Security Act for the calendar year 2022. This tax reduction applies to primary residents only. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
That the town of Torbay approve a 20% tax reduction for those residents whose single net income is between $0 and $19,464 for the calendar year 2022. This tax reduction applies to primary residents only. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any comment? Don, I would ask, or one clarification. These numbers we get from the provincial government, right, based on what low-income
Provincial
thresholds are?
and federal, yes, yeah.
Provincial and federal. We just don't grab them out
We
of a
don't
hat.
pull them out, no.
Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And finally, that the town of Torbay approve a 20% tax reduction for those residents where the combined family net income is between $19,464 and $46,656 for the calendar year of 2022. This tax reduction applies to primary residents only. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Comment?
Just one question, comment, sort of, that runs in tandem with the old age security reduction as well, right? The additional low-income deduction, so anybody who is low-income on old age security gets benefit of both, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So I would encourage anyone to, as Councillor Tepper pointed out in his budget speech, call, if you are in this situation, in any of these discounts, please contact the town. The staff will provide you the information that you need for you to be able to avail of these things. You know, and just because you couldn't avail last year, doesn't mean that you can't this year. So check into it and have a look.
I'd just like to make a comment there, and we've talked about it, and like a lot of times we're here and when we're just talking and maybe thinking out loud, there's a lot of really good ideas that come up, but unfortunately we don't capture them. But I think it's really important, as the CAO had mentioned there some time ago, that when we send out our taxes, that we put some information in there. And every year we keep saying that, but when the time comes, it don't necessarily, and I think, and maybe that does go in out there, but a lot of those changes and what it means and how they can get the forms. And even to say the difference about the mill rate and the assessments, because we've talked about how important it is to educate, and that's something we know every resident is getting, so if we can keep on top of that, CL.
I was just gonna mention that we would put all the tax payment options and the
In there.
different programs, and especially where we now have the tax deferral
Yeah,
policy as well too, that will include that with the tax bills.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe the forms could even go in
Correct.
there as well.
Okay. Councillor Appleby?
I just want to ask that this information is shared through our social media as well. You know, it's possible that somebody in the community is in that level and is following the town of Torbay's social media. It's also possible that somebody may have senior parents who would see that on social media and go, oh, right. So there's a number of different ways to communicate, and I think that, you know, we need to, and I've had this discussion over and over and over in the chamber since I've been here, about how we communicate with residents and how we engage. And I would caution about how much volume we're putting in with the tax bill, because I don't know what percentage of the population that this references, but I would assume that we're only putting this in for residents within a certain threshold of taxation. I don't know how we're figuring out their personal income to figure out who we send this to. But I can assure you right now that I'm going to be getting angry calls from residents if they're making $100,000 a year with this information, the forms and all that in their package going, well, you just put up our taxes, but now you're putting more stuff in here, printing it off. So I'm just asking from the communications perspective that we look at how we're going to go about saying that out. And I know CAO will do that with staff, but I would also ask that this is posted and shared, and not just once, like I would say over the year through, you know, different times in the year to make sure, because there could be a situation where somebody didn't see it, but then in 6 months they're looking through, oh, look, this is, and I didn't know, and this still could be something that they could take advantage of. So, thank you.
Okay. I don't know, I personally think that information with regards to all of those discounts is important. It's important information, even if I'm not eligible to receive it. It's good for me to know as a taxpayer that as part of the budget process, the town is giving discounts to these people. And I think that is important for everybody to know, not just people who are going to be in receipt of it. Anyway, that's just my thought. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Is that it?
It's concluded.
Have another 10 or 15 more motions? Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to those people watching. I hope you learned something or understand a little better about municipal budgeting and finance. It's, as I guess Ward put it, it's not as pretty tangly when you get into it, so. Anyway.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'd
Yeah.
like to have
Go ahead.
just to thank everybody, you know, especially Don and Norm, because, you know, we put in many hours on this. You know, staff, everybody, from day one, they made their presentations, and that started the whole process. You know, and there's a lot of big numbers in there. You talk about $1 billion. I know the billion word was used in a budget presented here in Torbay ever, you know. But that's based on assessments, the whole works. But it is a number that people will read, and there's tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on top of that. So, you know, it's all part of the process. But, and I agree with you, we should try to make people understand as best we can to what's involved here, and the numbers we're throwing at them, you know, in a 2-hour, whatever time frame. So, you know, get online, look at the numbers, try to learn more about it. Like Ward and Rhonda, come out of the election, thrown right into the pool of the budget. It's a big, big learning curve, you know, so. But you have more time next year.
Yeah. And
So thanks very much.
And to that point, and Rhonda can attest to this, I mean, soon as the election was over, I told her, I think Ward two, and you, I suppose it's gonna be a tough budget, right? I knew it, and I told everybody that would listen since last year that, you know, it's not gonna be easy. Things are tight. All right, moving on. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
I need to take 5 minutes,
Yeah, okay.
just away from the desk.
Yeah.
okay?
Sure.
And it probably won't be 5, but I have to,
That's okay.
I'm gonna try and get up first.
So we'll, Rhonda, we'll just make a note that you're left the meeting. We'll carry on.
Yeah. I'll be back.
Okay. Economic Development and Tourism. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Worship. So we had an Economic Development and Tourism meeting on Thursday, January the 13th at 6 PM. And I can't believe I'm actually using my glasses in a public meeting. It's stressing me right out. Attendance, myself, Councillor Manning, and our Economic Development Officer, Deanne Lawrence, were there. We talked about the Regional Agricultural Strategic Plan. This one is of particular interest to me. Any opportunity that we can increase our ability to grow our own food is definitely something that we want to be looking at and be a part of. 95%, I think, was the last number I actually saw, but a significant amount of the food coming into our province. And we just need to have that storm that happened in November to demonstrate again what a reliance we have on having our food imported. So we'll see what comes out of that, but there's documentation attached for reference, and if anyone's got any questions, by all means, let us know. The Regional Wayfinding Signage Project, there was a draft report that was shared, and we talked about it. I asked that it be shared with Planning and with Economic Development Office, our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, to make sure that the potential locations that were identified were actual locations that could be used. Just to note there that these wayfinding signs, there are recommendations about where they can go, but it's not something that council would have to do all at one time. So it's something that we have a draft idea of where they could be, something we could pick at over years to come. But the idea is having a regional wayfinding so that if you're in one area and you can find your way to the other and work around connectivity around the Northeast Avalon, the Killick Coast. Torbay Business Awards, we had a conversation about possible dates and the award ceremony. We talked about, you know, a weeknight would be better than a weekend, and we also had a conversation about how those business awards are done. And I think it's very important to know that neither myself nor Councillor Manning have any idea who the Economic Development and Tourism Officer has approached to be the screening group, the same as we did last year. We don't know who the members of the committee who are reviewing these applications are. That takes out any potential for us to be biased in any of those decisions. And there's also an evaluation criteria that is giving to that committee who is looking at it. So those decisions for who wins those business awards will be made by someone separate than us. Under tourism, we talked about the Year of the Garden and the fact that we had the proclamation for that. The municipal presentation is attached and the information's in the package, so if you've got any questions, by all means, have a look at that. And under culture and heritage, we talked about the heritage signs and to see if the audio clips are still working. So we understand with Torbay 50, we don't know, we know some of the signs aren't working, and for anyone who's following us tonight, these are signs that we have that you can have a QR code, take a picture, and it tells you a bit of the history of the story, what's going on in the town. So she's going to have a look in the spring to see how many of those signs are working or not. Is there anything that makes sense that can or cannot be done about it? I don't know. But it just came up in the discussion that some are working, some aren't, and we need to look into it. That's about it. So our meeting adjourned at 6:46 p.m. and so ends my report. Councillor Manning, do you have anything to add to what was in the council package for our Economic Development Tourism meeting?
No.
No? Okay. So I'm open to questions if anybody has any.
Questions? The sign at the beach don't work, and one of the lilies don't work. I tried them.
Yeah, and she's aware of that, but it's to see what it would be, like, why isn't it working and what would the cost be, and is it something that could be done? I don't know. But it is on our radar, and she is gonna be looking into it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, moving on. Infrastructure, Public Works, no report.
No report, we didn't meet, your worship.
Perfect.
But we certainly had some emails going back and forth in terms of some issues around our existing garbage contract, which I understand are being addressed by CAO and the director.
Okay.
So we will certainly follow up on all those emails, and as well, there were some snow clearing issues that are being addressed at the present time too. And I guess, you know, first time round, probably some new operators and things of that nature, and people getting used to different roads and different routes. So we'll certainly take those under advisement from people who actually emailed in. So,
Yep,
so it's
and,
that.
and to your point, I did receive a couple of emails, and I did forward them on to staff to address, and as far as I know, they got addressed.
I have one question. When we talked about the letters that we received from the concerned residents in Ballyline, you had mentioned that you were going to share that to the planning department. Is that something that should be on the infrastructure and public works agenda as well? How are we going to proceed with that? Because
They already have been.
Yeah.
You're talking about the ones about speeding, right?
yeah, the ones that are in the package.
Yeah, they've been included on the planning or public works staff from the beginning. Ron has been included on those.
Right, but I'm just thinking that, and the reason I'm asking the question, I think that there's, some of what's being said here is that the Ballyline has become more of a residential neighborhood than a provincial road that's just a thoroughfare to get from one place to the other. And so the reason I'm asking the question is, I don't know if there has been discussion or if there is a potential for a discussion to have a conversation about the development and planning that is happening or has been happening or potentially could happen on the Ballyline, and what impact that might have on the road and how it's being done. And then we can have a conversation with the province about it, because my understanding from my discussions with the province around that road, it's kind of been that, well, yeah, no, that's just a service road. It's not meant for a residential community. So the reason that there's no shoulder really on that road now is because, well, it's not built for people to be walking on. And I'll tell you, the last time I spoke with the MHA about this, I told them, I said, Jody, I live on that street. I don't walk it myself because I don't feel safe. I won't let my kids on the street. So I'm just curious if there is an opportunity to have a discussion across the departments around the planning, the road, infrastructure, speeding. I don't know if there's a use in a joint discussion. Maybe you guys are already ahead of me on that. I just kind of wonder if it makes sense to
You're talking
cross.
about our department and the Department of
No,
Transportation Works?
I'm just talking about the planning work that's happening and the zoning and the developments and all that stuff and the actual road. I'm wondering if we had a conversation from, infrastructure and public works and planning around it. Maybe we could come up with an idea to have something to bring back to the MHA to have a conversation about trying to address some of those issues. I mean, some of the things that, that I've been talking about and asking is, can we reduce the speed limit in that area? Is that something we can do? What options are available, right? So just curious, I don't know if it crosses over, and just asking that, if there's potential for any resolution to have, to be had. I don't know, I'm just putting that out there.
Fair enough. We can always make a communication to the department and ask for the speed limit to get altered on that road. But, that request should come from here, from the town, to make sure that we're all on the same page. And, I'm in constant contact with the MHA about Ballyline, and, I'm hoping to hear back from him now. He's hoping to get a response from the minister with regards to speed calming issues, so.
But that's exactly why I asked, because maybe with the increased residential development and that conversation amongst the departments, it might help make a case that comes from here.
They might turn around and say, you can have that road, here you go. Now we just add another $10 million for it.
We can't live in fear of them downloading roads on us. I think for
All right,
us to have a
okay.
conversation and brainstorm potential solutions is all I'm asking for.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Did you get that, Tony, Brian?
Yes, I'll have a conversation with the Director of Planning and Development,
All right.
and we'll bring it back forward.
Okay, thank you.
It's actually on the committee structure of when speed calming crosses over between planning, infrastructure, and public works.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Number 2, Recreation Community Services. Deputy Mayor. Oh,
No.
Councillor Goss, sorry.
No worries. We met, myself, Director Jen Martin and Deputy Mayor Thorne Goss, we met virtually on January 20th. We just talked about the program updates, virtual programming. Obviously with Alert Level 4, everything is virtual at this point, and it'll stay like that until we have some other, I guess, word from the province. Again, with Alert Level programming, majority of schedules programmed for January were completely canceled. This adds up to about 51 hours per week in missed programming, but again, we just have to do what we're told to do. Wellness initiatives. Department is also offering a wellness kit to promote physical activity and the STEPS challenge. Residents can register and get a pedometer. They can get that on the Torbay website. Something that help out with the keeping active. Facility update, the rentals, we've reviewed the 2021 rental rates for the Torbay Common Upper Three Corners Pond facility and afforded proposed changes for the 2022 Corporate Services Committee. Alert Level 4 disruption, currently a minimum 54 hours of gym rentals and 28 hours of multipurpose that were canceled. And that does not include any internal programs or weekly birthday parties, those kind of things. The outdoor rink is a good news thing. As I think a lot of Facebook posts, we saw some pictures last night of how it's looking there. Hopefully we get some cold weather that we can get good use of that for all our residents. We're hoping to get a schedule of hours and rules up pretty soon, so letting everybody know exactly whether it can be some hockey play, whether it can be just some general skating for the kids or adults. The softball walking track, the department will be hosting a family walk at the senior ball field on January 27th between 6 and 9 p.m. If anybody want to get out, the lights will be on for that. The director has also applied for various funding applications, including the age-friendly grant, the Community Healthy Living Fund, and the New Horizons for Seniors. Staff will also be applying for the Canada Summer Jobs Funds later this month as well. Recreation Department has developed a Facebook page, which residents will be able to get some information from there directly instead of having to go through the town website. So I think that's a good thing, and a shout out to the communications officer for being a part of that. Killick Coast Volleyball, the director has met with representatives about the possibility of supporting the development of a Killick Coast Volleyball Association for kids, for youth. We support that initiative, and hopefully the director will work with volunteers to see where things stand on that. Lastly, there was the director met with the Lions Club on an initiative about a mentoring program, and again, it's something that we'd like to see some synergies between the Lions Club and other community groups and our common, the Commons building so far. It's been a long night. Thank you.
All right, thank you
I'd
very
just
much.
like to add
Go
in
ahead.
there that the deadline to apply for the Canada Summer Jobs Fund is tomorrow. So that's something that, the deadline. And I don't know, like with regards to the Lions Club, what was the name of that training, Jen, that they were in touch with? Because I think that it's going to be good to get the word out to residents that that's taking place in conjunction, but once they know the name.
Yeah, it's Lions Quest. It's a national program, but I'm working with members from the local Lions Club to have a clinic here. So right now it'll probably be virtual sometime in February, so we'll be sending it out to all the community groups. And I actually just got the poster this evening from the Lions Club, so I'll be getting our communications officer to share it probably tomorrow.
Okay, I just wondered if you could share like what it actually is, the training itself.
There's different courses. It's along the lines of, for mostly right now, it's built for the school curriculum, but it's for adults who will be working with kids and youth. Different topics: bullying, drug awareness, vaping awareness, all along the lines of that, just supporting youth more or less.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
It's a really good program that they have and offer, and I think that the take up in the schools, the take up in that board will be really good, even for the program staff and not over to the common. It'll be something for them to be able to participate in conjunction with the
the Lions Club. It's good.
Great, good. Thank you very much.
If I could just comment on that, I'm familiar with the Lions Quest as well, and anybody who participates in any sort of programming that deals with youth. So, you know, I'm expecting that you're going to, but like the Northeast Minor Hockey Association, the Soccer Association, the staff that'll be working with the town, there's a lot of really good things, as the Deputy Mayor says, that will be fabulous for making awareness for people who work with children and providing support. So that's great. I just want to echo the sentiment on the ice rink over behind the Torbay Common. It is a good news story, and it's an outdoor space that families can go and they can get some exercise and enjoy. I do have a question though about operation. Do we have hours of operation planned? Do we have a COVID safety plan in place? Do we have a plan for like lighting after dark if people are going to be out there and participating, and or do we have like lights planned for that? What is the plan around that?
I'll take the yes and I'll say yes, yes, yes.
Staff are working on that now, and it'll be communicated out to all residents prior to the rink opening, and it'll be designated between skating and hockey, so there will be lighting, so that will all be communicated out, not only to council but to residents, so it'll be quite clear before it opens.
Okay, thank you. And for booking that, how do you book the time and
It'll
space?
be through Recreation and Community Services, so that'll all be communicated as well too.
Is that through e-services, Don?
No,
Okay,
it'll be through an email or a phone call.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Liaison committees, Atlantic Mayor's Congress, nothing to update. History House Museum, Councillor Tepper.
You'll see a memorandum there dated January 7th from the manager. Just a couple of things to highlight. Of course, he's looking at grant applications for summer staff. They're in preparation, and voluntary recruitment strategy is being developed. Requests for proposals are also in progress to finish the final components of the History House project. The exhibits and interpretation, there was a little snag in this, and we had to go out and have people submit proposals to get these two main exhibits done. And the extended deadline is January 28th to get them in. You see there's a lot of grant preparation and applications here as well, some with big dollar amounts associated, but I must say the manager is pretty proactive in this whole effort to get the History House open during the summer. So if there's any questions, and by the way, the next Board of Directors meeting is February the 1st, and actually myself and the manager is meeting with Don next week. I think
It's tomorrow morning. I believe it's tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, I'm
Yes.
sorry, yeah. I'll be there. So, that's it. Any
All right.
questions?
Thank you. Questions?
No, but one comment. I love this "Our house is your house" slogan. I'm not sure where that came from, but I like that. I think that works really well. It's at the bottom of the report there, and if it's not something we've adopted, it's something that we might want to think about, because I think that might resonate with people. I just like it. I think it's good. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Intergovernmental affairs, nothing to report. Jackburn Arena.
Meeting Thursday night, coming to review the budget for next year. It looks like there's some good news. It looks like there's partial reopening for at least some hockey events, and there's a number of hours picking up down there now, so it looks starting to turn back the other way, so it's good. At least we get some activity there now, so hopefully more positive news, but the budget looks like it's still pretty much, you know, before we're reviewing it Thursday night, where we have obviously an advance look at, so you know, it looks positive, which is good.
Okay, good. Warren?
Yeah, we just, to reiterate there, we actually started some ice time this past week, so I think first ice time was probably Friday or Saturday morning, so we're up and back at it. Things are, Hockey NL has got some things in place for no contact or no, I guess, just basically skills and drills.
Right.
But it's trending in the right direction, so we're looking forward to getting up and getting back at her.
Oh, that's good. All right, thank you. Northeast Satellite Joint Council, Deputy Mayor.
No, we had our meeting, so another one until the middle of February.
Perfect, thank you. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Ment.
Thank you. So I have a memo here I'm going to read out, and there's a motion there, and I'll get to that now as I read this out. January 21st, 2022, it's to Mayor and Council. It's from the CAO, and it's concerning the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department Constitution. Good day. Further to my memo dated November the 25th, 2021, regarding the recommendation from Fire Chief McGrath regarding the adoption of the revised Torbay Volunteer Fire Department Constitution and the subsequent request to defer due to Chief McGrath's retirement notice. The TVFD executive has provided me with a request to ask Council to consider its ratification at the January 24th, 2022 Public Council meeting. While the department is in a period of transition with the recent retirements of Chief McGrath and Deputy Chief Dunphy, the revised constitution will support the operation of the department during this interim period. I am in support of the executive's request. Please find attached the proposed changes to the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department Constitution as indicated in red. The draft constitution was voted on and accepted by the members of the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department. The revised document was circulated to Council for review in consultation with Fire Chief McGrath and Council Liaison to the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, Councillor Manny. No additional comments were received. Please find below the required motion for Council's consideration. Thanks, Don. So the motion reads that the town of Torbay adopt the revised constitution of the Torbay Volunteer Fire Department as presented, effective January 24th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Seconder, please.
Second?
All right, comments or questions? No? All in favor?
Mayor, before you do, I just got one question. And I don't understand the world of the firefighters, but question that I have is, some of the different positions there, it says they have the same rank as the fire chief at a fire. Is there and I just, because I don't understand it, what happens if two of those positions get there? Like, does one of them assume that, or do they have a plan of the hierarchy, how that's going to go? Can you explain that to me?
That's a really good question, and unfortunately not one that I can answer right now.
There is a protocol in place based on who arrives at the scene
Okay.
first, but it's more there to reflect if one of them doesn't show up, who can take command
Oh, okay.
at the call.
Thank you.
All right, and I did see the ICS training in here, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Perfect, awesome, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? Thank you. UMC committee, we're gonna have a meeting February 17th, I think. I had a meeting last week with the staff at M&L, talking about when our next meeting is gonna be. It's gonna be virtual, obviously, and I guess it hasn't been sent out yet, so I'll say 17th, but I'm not sure if that's the right day. Sometime in mid-February, mid to late, mid to middle. All right, notice of motion, we have none. New business. Let us go and look through here. Councilor Tepper passed. Councilor Manning passed. Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say thanks to Councillor Tapper, all of council, and especially all staff in terms of the discussion and the effort taken around this budget. Has been a lot of hours put in, and you know, I certainly know the level of effort that everybody's done, and I appreciate that. And I think we all arrived at something that is hopefully not too onerous on residents, and certainly provide the level of service that is expected of Torbay. And a special thanks to the residents who actually took the time to stand out there in the cold and not harass us actually, and just let us drive in then I managed to join and have a chat with a few of them. I just hope that, and I challenged as well, I said, you know, I wish you had been here when we were going through the first part, when everyone was asking for comments and commentary into the budget, and I said, you know, make sure that everyone shows up next time around as well. Whenever we have budget discussions, come out and make your choices known, and then we can make longer term plans. So I want to say thanks to those folks, and you know, certainly hope while they might not agree necessarily with where we ended up or my position on certain things, that I hope they certainly understand that at the end of the day, you know, we have to provide a certain level of service, and it's not something that we can just turn on a dime and necessarily change. We have to actually sit down and take that longer term view and take in, you know, a wider swath of what residents say, and the onus is on residents to actually provide feedback to us in terms of what they need moving forward. So I just want to say thanks to everybody, and that's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Your Worship. Similar to Councillor Pollard, I do want to extend a thank you to Council for all the work that has been put in. Like we all said, there's been a lot of hours that's gone into that. I do want to send a big thank you to residents. You know, I think that it's important that they engage, that we engage them, and that we make sure that we hear what they had to say. And you know, for people to show up and stand in the cold and talk to us, and when I did, I made a point before I came in here to go up and speak with them as well, and they appreciate that. They appreciate that we're taking the time and listening. And you know, we had an email about the budget that came in, and I responded, and you responded to that email, and the resident wrote me back and said, you know what, I really appreciate the fact that our council is approachable and will contact us back when we're reaching out and asking questions. But you know, that people are paying attention, that they're asking questions, that they're holding us to account, that they're expecting us to do the best that we can for them, I think says a lot. And I'm very appreciative of everybody who's taken the time to reach out and have those conversations with us. The last thing, real quick, is just the people who are dealing with COVID and this lockdown this time. Councillor Pollard just talked about, you know, the reopening of the building out there. I spent 4 years at the Jack Byrne Board, and a lot of that through COVID. I know that it's a lot of work for staff and the board members to deal with that. I also know that the Soccer Association, Softball Association, Minor Hockey, all those volunteers are working really hard right now to try to get services up and running back for kids. And I know that lots of families are nervous about their kids going back to school tomorrow. I'm one of them. But I also want to say a big thank you to the teachers and everybody who's working really hard to try to keep safe and move things forward and do the best we can. So lots of thank yous. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Goss passed. Deputy Mayor.
Just, I guess, without repeating it over again, to the staff and to all of the directors and the departments, and especially Don and Norm. Finance Committee, but I wouldn't be right in leaving without thanking Don. To say that I'm upset. It's too bad we couldn't be leaving here together tonight as a team, that we couldn't have everybody in agreement with the 7.05%. I, for one, could have easily came in and said no tax increase, but how we're going to get there. And I think that that's really bad, and I think that it's too bad for this council that we weren't able to go in. And I think Councillor Tapper alluded to it in all these years, 13 years on council, it's never happened that, you know, you end up going against it. And I know last year we struggled with making a decision. And I know that you went ahead and you said that yourself tonight, that even though you weren't in favor of the not having an increase, because we wouldn't be here, that you did that anyway for the team. So I would just like to say that out there and put that out there. And I know it was a struggle for our new councillors. I could see it, and where you were too with it all. And I also have to thank the people that were out there tonight, because I spent a fair bit of time when Councillor Pollard left me out there. But it was all good, and the fact that they took the time and we went down and they said like, I didn't know that, I didn't know that. So it goes again against our communication, and I know there's gonna be people upset tonight that we didn't look at and why we didn't go for 0% for all of us, but for me, it was impossible. And like I said, it was something that we had to agree to do, because while you get there, and we even seen it, all the reasons why, when things came up, why we shouldn't do it, and they're hard decisions. So again, I'd like to thank everybody, but I am going away a little, yeah, it's too bad it couldn't be a team effort, so yeah. That's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, where am I to? Basically, I said my thank yous to council and staff for the budget during the time in the motions. I'm cute enough, I picked the right time out to do it. I do want to thank staff, and I want to say, you know, I really care about our staff here at the town, as I know the council does. And they know that, because I go and I talk to them and I tell them. And, you know, I'm glad that we were able to come forward with a budget that maintains the service levels of the town. Hopefully, we're going to see, because we don't know. You know, we've made some big cuts there. And, you know, we're going to get questions. Well, you're going to get an email and well, how come this? Well, we don't do that no more, sorry, right? So I think that there's going to be some growing pains over the next little while for that. I know that my daughter is going back to school tomorrow, and everybody's a bit nervous going back to school with COVID, so I tell everybody to keep your head up. There's the one other thing I'm going to say, you know, and I haven't looked yet, but I already know that Facebook is probably blown up or whatever. But I would just say this, and disagree with us, no problem. Everybody's not going to always agree. But there's 7 human beings sitting around here on council, and staff are here. You know, we're here trying to do the best that we can. We make decisions that we feel are in the best interest of the residents and of the town. You might not always agree with us. We can agree to disagree, fine. But, you know, let's just please do it respectfully. And there's anybody that knows me, I'm very approachable. I'll talk to anybody, and I'll respond for the most part. But I can share with you that for the last 8 months, that I've been a lot less engaged on social media than I have been in the past. And that is based on advice from my doctor, because I'm getting in a bad place. But to that, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Can I just make an important
Go ahead, sir. Yes.
We always make this point.
Since who you are.
Once the budget is approved, everybody
Yes,
got to support it.
that's right. I mean, that's like any,
So much social media and everything else, but that's very important.
Hey, yeah.
Everybody got to support it.
Any decision of council, once the decision is taken, is the decision of council. So that's, I mean, that's in our council handbook. It's a good philosophy, and it'll help us go a long ways in terms of moving on to strategic planning and whatever else that we need to do. So with that, Don, did we get any Q&As? Sorry.
Yes, there is one, actually.
Oh, start.
From Madeline Florent, can you please explain the comment made during the budget discussion that our town could lose its operating grants and its gas tax money if we didn't raise the mill rate? What is the special rule?
Okay, all right, Madeline, excellent question. And this is my first opportunity to be able to put some additional information around the bones of certain things. In 2015, well, even before that, M&L and municipalities across the province have been lobbying the provincial government for additional new sources of revenue for municipalities. In 2015, the provincial government signed an agreement with municipalities across the province for additional revenues. In order to be able to receive those additional revenues, the agreement was made that towns had to maintain a per capita own source revenue based on 2015 budgets. Am I right on that, Norm? Yes. So, last year, because we've maintained our own source revenue, which is basically the tax dollar amount, not the mill rate going up and down or whatever, but the amount of dollars that we have for our source of revenue, which would be taxes, the per capita amount at that time, 2015, would have to be worked out. I'll get Norm to do you up an email and send it to you tomorrow, but I think this is important information. Every year when we go to do our budget, we still have to try and maintain what that level was in 2015. If we go below that level in 2015, and this has happened to other municipalities, that they drop below the per capita own source revenue, so it's a certain amount of dollars per person in your town. If your town happens to grow by 1,000 people, that own source revenue is gonna have to keep up with those extra 1,000 people. This is the part that kind of caught some municipalities off guard. When their population increased, they were looking at their budgets and saying, well, we're maintaining our dollar values, but didn't take into account per capita for the people. And last year, like I said, we used $600,000 almost of one-time money to balance our budget. So that was $600,000 of own source revenue that we did not take in. This year was another almost, it was $200,000 more of our own source revenues that we weren't going to take in if we didn't increase the mill rate. So that 200,000 of that 0.2, the very first 0.2 from 6.7 to 6.9, is basically to maintain revenues what they were last year. From 2015, $9.13, I think, is the number, 11 cents. So $9.11 our own source revenue has increased per capita since 2015. So you can, at that point, you can tell it's very fine line how much we can go up or go down in order to maintain those other funding levels. And those were set out by the government in 2015 in that community sustainability program. So if you go below your per capita own source revenue, you potentially could lose your municipal operating grant, some of your gas tax, and your ability to borrow. Basically, what the government said to municipalities in 2015, we are going to give you this extra revenue, but we are not going to allow you to just take that revenue and lower taxes in your town. You requested additional revenue to do more things. This is what it's for. So that's the best I could explain it. I think it's pretty good. I think I got a good handle on it.
Mayor, there's a letter that we can post on the website as well too, that came from the department as well as circular. So
Okay.
we can post that as part of the budget documents as well too.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madeline, for your question. All right, so, any more?
That's it.
Good, okay. I was ready for another 20. But, but it's getting late. Our next public council meeting is going to be January 26th.
Special public meeting,
Special-
Wednesday, yes.
Special public meeting on Wednesday, January 26th, 2022. And our next regular public council meeting is scheduled to take place Monday, February 7th, 2022, here in the council chambers. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before
please. Oh,
you
before I do?
entertain the motion to adjourn, did you want the picture of council with the Bell Let's Talk flag?
Sure, we can do that before we adjourn. You want to? We get that picture with that flag? Well, I mean, they've watched us now for 4 hours, another 4 minutes. Another 4 minutes is not gonna make a difference.
Do you want to stand there? I'll take the picture.
Can't see my smile, Mr. Bed.
Are we going to physically distance?
We just gotta be, look like we're singing half part. Okay. Your hot towel is off. You're good. Thanks, Don. All right, do we have enough to, have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. Thank you, everybody.